What? What? Say what?
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 Who?
What?
Hmm?
Huh? What?
Hi.
Hi. Hi.
Hi.
What's going on? How are you today? Hi, Jen. How are you?
Good. How are you?
How's your Friday going?
It's Friday. Fridays are good.
Welcome, everybody. If you're out there in wonderful TV land, hopefully the week, well, obviously, you made it through the week if you're here.
Yay.
Hopefully you did it with flying colors. Sliding headfirst into the weekend as we do. I'm furiously spending 8 gallons of primer to primer this model so I can start painting it tonight.
What are you going to do with it?
Huh?
What are you going to do with it?
What am I going to paint it?
No, what are you going to do when it's painted?
I don't know.
You don't play that game.
I don't play this game. I don't play GW games. But this model I made so many years ago and spent so much time on it and got so many really good comments from the GW staff. It was going to be in White Dwarf at one point.
What's that?
The GW magazine.
Oh.
I used to write, well, I didn't write the articles, but I used to build a lot of the models, paint a lot of the stuff that went in White Dwarf for the U.S. when I worked at the G-Dubs. And this was going to be one of them. I can't remember what the deal was. Maybe it was just a conversions thing, or if it was a articles particular to Chaos. I don't remember. I'm old. I can't be held accountable for my.
Can't be expected to remember that stuff.
Can't be. I mean, that's like, early 2000s. This is decades ago, it seems, right? Like 13 years ago, I built this thing. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
Made out of. We're gonna see how many really dedicated Games Workshop, knowledgeable people are in our stream.
See if they can identify
See if they
the
can
parts.
identify all the parts on this model. Houdini, what's happening? Assassin Red, what's going on? Aries Apollo, what's going on? Happy Friday to everybody. So I had this crazy lump of plastic, resin, and steel in front. It's not really steel, it's white metal, but we're going to call it steel because that sounds better.
It definitely does.
Sounds cooler. Sounds tougher.
Sounds super cool.
We've got this big amalgam of materials here that equates to a very custom, one-off, never see another one like it because no one would be as foolish as to try to make one of these, I don't think. Especially when you look at the cost of the parts. I would not have made this thing had I not worked at GW, and parts just kind of fall off the back of trucks and you just have parts. So after I get it primed, we'll take a look at some of those parts and see if everybody can name them. Anybody can name them, actually. I don't know if everybody. I know everybody won't be able to. There aren't enough of you out there that are old enough to remember some of these models. Well, I say that. I don't know that any of these models are not available anymore, but I bet some of them are fairly hard to come by. Be interesting if Kenny sticks around after he gets done with his stream. We'll see how much he knows. We'll put his GW parts identification skills to the test. Robbie B would be able to figure it out. I feel like Spiky Bits Rob would know exactly what we're dealing with. He's been around the block a couple times. Telebadger, what's happening? Welcome back. Friday Night Steel. That it? Hashtag Friday Night Steel.
That's tough.
Resin, plastic, and steel. Tune in as we run the gamut. We got to figure out colors. Like, this is one of those I'm just going in. I'm like, you know what? I took it off the shelf. I said, I've been saying for years that this thing's going to get a coat of paint. I fixed it today. It was old and janky. Some teeth had fallen off. Made some new teeth.
Was that at the house or did you have that here?
What's that?
Was that at the house or here?
No, I did here. Right when I came in. I busted it off the other base, glued it onto this base, fixed its feet. I work quick. That's code for it was easy, actually. But, I've been looking for some inspiration, something that I can paint that gets me back into the swing of creativity and being excited about, actually throwing paint on something. And so I was just looking around. I was grabbing stuff out of the studio at home. And, we got boxes and boxes and boxes of models, just crazy amounts of crap laying around. And so I was looking at all of that, thinking to myself, there's got to be something here that I've forgotten about that is going to get me pepped up about painting. Something that I knew it was going to have to be something that either we hadn't started or, we had started just enough and then forgotten about it that it was still going to be exciting to kind of figure out what to do with it. So that's what I did. I hunted around, and this thing, jumped out at me. Not really, but I had remembered here when we moved the cam studio and everything over here that I had found it in a box, and I had put it on a shelf at the house because I didn't want it to get damaged. I think we've shown it on stream a couple of times. Oh my God, there's still so many areas that haven't been primed. Let it sit for a minute, and then I'm going to go back after it with primer again to get all of those bits and pieces. But this is my long ago custom defiler. I'm going to make the screen big.
Take it.
Because it's a little awkward
I don't need anything.
to zoom in here. So
I'm doing the same thing I've been doing for the past 4 weeks.
So. She's painting shine on her Monster Apocalypse. Mom Pock. I misspelled TFT in the title, Bamf. I don't think I did, actually. I think it's spelled correctly. You're just reading it wrong. Right. This is a very crazy counts as Chaos Defiler. It's 100% GW Forge World and Forge World parts. So there's nothing on here other than the resin base from Elric's that I haven't, cobbled together and kit bashed, basically, is what this whole model is. And it's a pretty amazing, if I do say so myself, conglomeration of stuffs.
It's something.
We'll see as people filter in who can tell me what's what and figure out what we got here. But I hate the Defiler model. I don't know if the Defiler is even still a thing. I think it is. I think you can still buy it on the GW site. And I think it's probably still in the Chaos world. But, the Defiler's a horrible model. It always has been. It's just garbage. I'm sorry if you like it. It's a horrible model. It's like the worst combo of tank and legs and nonsense that I'd ever seen. It was really blocky and just seemed like somebody had, cut and paste a bunch of things out of a magazine together and said, that'll work. It just didn't have any feel to it. So a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, I made this Defiler. The better Defiler. So that's what we're gonna figure out what to do. I don't know what color. I kind of want purples. Like as I look at the skin, I'm thinking maybe purples. Crazy purple and red skin. All the metallics and stuff coming out of that. Be kind of cool. How's that Hellcommon arm not pulling the whole thing over? Aha, see, a cat herder knows. A cat herder's been around the block. You know what we're dealing with here, and that's the Chaos Dwarf Hell Cannon, and it's solid metal. This whole arm here is all metal except for the green stuff that I put on it, right? And it's held on by the arms, and my mechanical engineering senses kicked in, and so these arms are put at just the right angles to support it both from pulling away from the model and from putting too much down pressure to hurt the model, right? And then I just balance that with the other arms on the other side. I built the whole model around how the Hell Cannon fit onto the body. But yeah, it is the metal Hell Cannon. Faux show. The old Chaos Dwarf Hell Cannon from Warhammer Fantasy Battles. Yeah, it is. It's the heaviest part of the model. Like you can literally pick it up by its arm and feel that that's like all the weight right there is in that arm. It's crazy. Yeah, that was the thing that really got it going. I was like, you know what? I could take this body. Does anybody know what this body is? The Forge World thing. But I took the body and I was like, you know what? I bet I could make it to where like it had a cannon on it. Because this is not doesn't have this body isn't part of anything mechanical in the Forge World realm. And so I had to add all the mechanical stuff to it and green stuff all of it on there to make it really cool. What I think is really cool, at least, and do some neat stuff with it. So we'll run through it all once everybody gets in here. Have some fun with it. Figure out some colors. I think maybe we'll do like a multicolor kind of body, like it's kind of stretching from different kind of weird. Because this whole thing looks so tortured. It's like it could have all sorts of really awful colors on it. Well, I spent a lot of as I look back at this, I just remember all the time I spent going through and sculpting and green stuffing to make all of this look like it was supposed to be here. Hopefully it turns out good when we paint it. I feel like it's gonna look pretty good. Looks like a giant chaos spawn and some bits from a penitent engine. Ta-da! You have some of it. It is the giant chaos spawn from Forge World, right? With all of its legs rearranged. These, well, not all. It only has a couple of the legs. These legs used to come out of its back. I think where the top arms are here, there were places, and these big claw arms used to come out of there, and it had legs. I didn't use any of its legs. I don't know. Those probably got thrown back into the ether, right? And then it's 4 penitent engine arms, right? So I basically tore apart 2 penitent engines, so the cost of 2 penitent engines in this thing. It's got the penitent engine driver, penitent, in there, right? Who has been green stuff to have, the Inquisition stuff gone off of it. And then, the chaos growths holding it on. We have sculpted all of that to hold that chair into the belly of the chaos spawn. And then penitent engine legs, obviously. And then I think these metal plates were probably also the penitent engine shoulder plates that are on here. And then penitent engine arms, and then Reaper cannons. These skull deals are the Chaos Machine Spirit. I forget what they called it back in the day, but the Reaper autocannons, you could have an upgrade that I don't know if it gave you rerolls or what if you had this on there. But these are the skulls from the backpack of the old Chaos Demon Lord, Chaos Space Marine Demon Lord guy, who actually had his backpack kind of growing and being taken over. And then there's all sorts of other stuff. Like I don't remember what all these little arms are here, what they're from. I can't remember. Sort of loader pincher thing. These are pulling the spines out of his back, if you can see that. Loader arms are pulling the spines out of the back, and you can see that the spines actually have the missile jet engines on them, propulsion engines. So that they pull the spines out and shove it into the missile launcher, and you see the missile launcher's got the spines in there. If you can see, they're carved to look like the spines and all that. And things like Skaven rat tails make the tongues stuff. But everything on here other than the green stuff part is all chaosy GW bits. They're impurity seals, exactly. Rage Wolf, what's going on? Awful lot of purity seals. Yeah, they're impurity seals now, right? Like if you read the Chaos books, you'll read about all the guys that have what used to be their purity seals on them still. They didn't tear them off. They corrupted them. So that's part of the fun of it, is that it's kind of like the corrupted penitent engine thing.
Kinds of wet in
right?
my pants.
Kenny, what's happening? What's going on, everybody? We're showing off what we're going to be working on tonight. Howdy. He said howdy. I said hi.
Hi.
Shinkai, what's happening? We were going over all the parts and pieces. This is a model that we made a bajillion years ago.
I'll just throw back
Jack
my
Dempsey,
legs and
22
pollute my
freaking
britches
months.
with delight.
Very, very close to being an untrustable lying liar who lies. Just saying. Bride, what's happening? We're doing great. How about you? Hope everybody's had a wonderful week. We are sliding headfirst into the weekend. Jen is working on her Monpak Gorgadra over there. And I'm about to finish priming this, and then we'll start throwing some color on him. I was just discussing with everybody, test everybody's old Warhammer knowledge and see if you can figure out the parts and pieces that made this, right? This is Mauiblood, what's going on? This is a Chaos Defiler. This is Jason's version, my personal insanity level 11 version of what the Chaos Defiler would have been much better looking like, right? So it's got a bunch of old school Warhammer and 40K bits all over it, and is something that I just think is a much better indicator to what Chaos would be rather than that stupid Defiler tank, right? Maui, right? I thought of you when I pulled it down off the shelf. I go, if nobody else can appreciate this, I know Mauiblood will, because he's got this bitchin' Chaos army that I saw him play it in Vegas, right? So this is it. This is we already were having a discussion. Some people had already guessed what some of the parts were. I was saying that Kenny probably knows some of these parts on here. We were commenting that this arm is 90% of the weight of the model, and I had to use all of my mechanical engineering skills to make sure it didn't make the model fall apart and pull the model apart. It actually balances very well and is pretty crazy. I think it's going to be fun to paint. Hell Cannon, it is, Ace. It is the old Warhammer Fantasy Chaos Dwarf Hell Cannon, right? So if you've ever built one, I don't know if they ever made like a resin or whatever they call their resin recasts of it, but this is the solid metal one. This is the OG Hell Cannon. And then it's got a bunch of penitent engine parts, right, that have been bent up and moved around to work. It's got two sets of penitent engine arms that are holding, obviously, the Hell Cannon in place, and one of them is the rocket launcher, and the other one is holding the dual Reaper autocannons, right, on it. Got the machine spirit stuff shown on there that are the backpacks from the Chaos Demon Prince, or not Demon Prince, but the Chaos Lord that looked like he was a Space Marine guy.
Thank you, Maui.
Mauiblood, welcome to the Lying Liar Who Lies Club. You made it, boy. You made it.
Yep, we put some.
You made it. They just went out today.
Put something in the mail for you today.
Myrtle, yeah, that cannon is super heavy.
Myrtle,
it was
I
a
put
task.
something in the mail for you today as well.
The plastic launcher from probably, I don't know what that comes from, Land Raider, something. Maybe that came from a Defiler. I don't know. Bunch of guitar wire to show the skulls being the guidance systems for that. The tail from a zombie dragon, the old Warhammer Fantasy zombie dragon, undead dragon. This thing, the tail, is from that. The body itself is the giant chaos spawn from Forge World.
Rest I don't mail to the UK.
So it's and we took the arms from the top and made them its forelegs. Of course, the legs from the penitent engine and stuff. So it's got all sorts of crazy crap all over it. Skaven tails for tongues flying out of the chaos maws and stuff like that. So it's got all sorts of really kind of disgustingly cool features that I really dig. And then tons and tons of green stuff to make it all work, because I had to create like all of the, like where the loader arms for the missile rack are. These are the, if you look in here, these loader arms pull the spines out of the back. You can see how this loader arm has pulled this spine out of its back, and that's the actual rocket that goes in the rocket pod. So these loader arms are meant to be loading the rockets in. Right, so I had to green stuff all of the base where the arms go into the body and stuff like that, and all the green stuff. If you've ever put together this damn Hell Cannon, you know it's a pain in the ass. It's got huge seams that have to be done, so it's all green stuff and done back like hammered metal. So, pretty good, pretty fun. We got a little bit more priming to do, and then we'll get to drop some color on it. So hopefully this is some nostalgia for some of you out there who are into 40K and fantasy. There's a lot of really cool old parts on it. All of these were done. It was built back when these parts were new. So we're not gonna talk about how much this model would cost. If you were just gonna buy it, it's pretty obscene, I think. The amount of money that the boxes that you had to buy to get this done would be. Now, I worked at GW at the time that I was building this, so like we were talking about, I was not having to spend that money necessarily. I had to pay for stuff, but I could bits order stuff that normal people couldn't back in the days. Probably the one thing I miss in the hobby the most was being able to pick up the old GW Bits catalogs and be like, yeah, I need 6 of those arms, that leg, a bunch of those things.
Maui said, if I mail you a box of Chaos Bits, what kind of Hawaiian candy do I need to include to get one of these back?
What kind of what?
Hawaiian candy.
What kind of Hawaiian candy do you need to tempt me with to get to the point where you get one of these back?
I know you're in Maui, but those Honolulu cookies are delicious. Magos Prime said, will multiple coats of Model Master Lusterless make a difference? I sprayed some after using gloss to do some washes, and I'm bummed with the sheen.
And you what?
I'm bummed with the sheen.
Yeah, you can put more coats on it. If you did gloss first, you might need to use 2 or 3 coats of the lacquer. Just don't put it on heavy, right? You want to make sure that you're taking your time and layering it up. If you go on super thick, it can start to cloud up a little bit. Not cloudy like when it is a mistake cloudy. Sometimes it just looks a little beat up, dusty.
Now, Maui, those cookies, I was only speaking for myself. I can't put
She's
together.
not building. Last I checked, she doesn't build her own damn models.
I don't. That's a true story.
Last I checked, I have to build the models she paints. So don't be sending stuff to Jen to try to get me to do work. That ain't how that works.
There have only been a couple. Did this have to be put together, or did he come like this?
What?
This.
Yeah, it had to be put together. Yeah.
You had to put it together?
Yeah.
Oh.
Not much. The nice thing about the Monpok models is that there's not a whole lot of bits and pieces to them. It's usually just like arms, legs, body. So it's pretty simple.
I see.
The big thing with the resin stuff is the cleaning, right? Because it all has like flash.
Yeah.
And bits and pieces you got to cut and file and clean and get all perfect and all that. So, which the older I get, the less I have patience for. Not really interested in spending hours upon hours cleaning resin or doing as much sculpting as I used to do, to do stuff like this crazy conversion and all that. As awesome as it is at the end of the day to have, such a unique model that you won't see anywhere else, you just get to a point, or at least I get to a point where I'm like, I'll build what's in the box. I'm okay with the way the model is.
Tomago said, okay, so multiple thin coats will mute the gloss, correct?
Yeah, you'll get rid of the gloss. Make sure you're shaking the hell out of that lacquer because like any flat lacquer, if the matte medium doesn't mix in the bottle, it will be satin. And it'll come out sort of, with that sheen. So you just got to be careful that you're getting the dull coat mixed correctly too. Because in most cases, I can do it with 1 coat.
No, you don't have to send us cookies.
She says that. But what's going to
if you
happen?
do, I'll eat them.
Yeah, but what's going to happen is that we're going to go home and she's going to go, that Maui, if he doesn't send me cookies, that's it. Dead to me. Dead to me. It was so good seeing him and his brother and Rob Rotsock, Enigma.
Oh, yeah.
We're all in Vegas when we went to that War Machine tournament. Even get to hang out for a little bit, just watch some gameplay.
Nice.
Watch Maui absolutely stuff this Tau player into a small box.
That's always exciting.
Oh my God, so many nooks and crannies and bits and pieces and nonsense.
Poet and Moore said custom Chaos Knight or just random Chaos Nasty?
Defiler. This is intended to be a defiler. I guess you could use it for whatever you wanted to. I don't play the games from GW anymore, so I don't know for sure what all chaosy sort of walker things there are these days. But this was built back in 2006, 2007-ish, probably 2006, as a defiler for my Chaos Army. And I just never got around. I needed it for a tournament or something that we had going on at the office, probably like a staff tournament or something. I needed it based and playable. So I put it together, got it to that stage, played with it, and then put it in a box, and it's existed now with that Chaos Army. And I just got rid of the Chaos Army recently, and it made me think, where's that Defiler? And so we found it, put it up on a shelf, and I was looking for stuff that inspired me to want to paint today, and here we are. That's what led us to here.
Shinkai, awesome. Too. Shinkai said already playing with burnt orange, which is set to become a new favorite of mine.
I was going to say, right? Burnt orange, tip top of the paint scale. Amazing. All right, that's going to have to be good enough. I'm going to go ahead and say that if there's some areas that don't have prime on them, once we put paint on them, we won't know.
Doka, I think he primed this fully from the start.
I'll just throw back my legs and
Well,
pollute
Manvol,
my
thank
britches
you.
with delight.
Well, Manvol, 11 freaking months. Thank you. You missed the old giant catalog. Yeah, they were hardback. The hardback bits catalogs are so good. Maui, if you had all these bits, it probably wouldn't be the end of the world to be able to make another one because I have this one to stare at. If I had to do it from memory, I'd be screwed. I have some old pictures that we took for White Dwarf for it during the build stages, because I was going to have it be an article in White Dwarf with Dave Taylor on conversions, right? They had like a conversion corner part of the U.S. White Dwarf back in the day, but I think all that just kind of got muddied up. I never got it painted, obviously, and then I left GW. So it never made the light of day, but so you guys get to see it here. Live it. Live the dream. It's coming back. Don't let your dream. You can let your dreams sit in a suitcase only for so long, and then you have to let them out and actually do something with them. Pancake mix and cookie. Oh, the pancakes. Oh, Orc Pride. I don't mind pineapple, but no, don't start. So don't start. Doka, no, this was primed. This was not primed at all. Like Jen said, we started from scratch. It was on this base that I hastily made back in the day, right? I just threw some pink foam on a piece of whatever that is, masonite board, and it was glued down to that, right, for years. I just needed it for playing a game, right, with my word bearers. And once I played the game, it just stayed on this stupid base, and I didn't do anything with it.
It's not even a circle.
I got a cool. No, I know. I hacked it out with my teeth out of
It looks like I cut it out.
Yeah, exactly. So
for having
mini
as many
painterluke, thank you
scissors
so
as
much.
I cannot cut straight to save my life.
Mauiblood, all the chaos bits you had went into a knight preceptor dedicated to Nurgle. Nurgle. Thank you, Mini Painter Luke. What did I do when I worked for GW? I was the West Coast Regional Business Manager was my professional title. I also ran inside sales for the entire West Coast region, meaning all of the guys that would call out to the independent comic retailers and do the sales of GW product to them. They were under my purview. I handled all of the HR for the West Coast, all of the accounts receivables and payables for all of that, all the fun business stuffs. And then I was also the hobby manager after about a year working there, and they, my intensity for the hobby was recognized and not just a business guy. And so I also became the hobby manager, doling out like when new models were coming out of the studio, coming up with ideas for what we could do to get the stores hyped about, putting these new models out there and marketing them to people as they came in. So, coming up with ideas, hobbying and submitting to White Dwarf. I have a lot of my old stuff was in White Dwarf from the time that I worked there. If you remember, I forget who won the old Soul Drinker squad, but we gave away some of the original stuff that I did for White Dwarf. A Space Marines Soul Drinkers command squad that I made. We have a Soul Drinker Scout. I did a bunch of stuff for like when we came out with the Monster Hunter deals. We do a lot of those kind of fun event-oriented narratives in the U.S. White Dwarf. The studio was back in Glen Burnie at the time. Dave Taylor, if you know Dave Taylor from Dave Taylor Miniatures, Dave Taylor ran the studio, and I worked with him out and back to the studio for content. So we'd paint a lot of stuff, take pictures of it in the studio, and all that kind of nonsense.
When you get a chance, can I have you look at this and tell me
Are you doing it right?
if,
Is that what you want?
if I'm doing it right and where else I need to...
Oh, heck yeah, you are. That shine on the claw, that's damn near perfect. Yeah.
So then what about, like, on the other one, and then also on the sides, like the...
Of the side of the shoulders?
Like the part of the shoulder that's kind of like facing down.
Yeah. So let's get a brush that isn't. So on this other hand, again, you're probably going to find your shine line somewhere in this area
That's
here.
kind of what I was thinking too.
But it's going to go all the way down on this side because you've got more of this facing upwards probably. So I go down there. I do the top side of this thumb.
Okay.
Right, and then the dark over here, and then the same thing you did on the other side here, just kind of this top area blended down. But the same way that you did it over here, just maybe take it a little bit further down towards the edge.
Okay.
And then depending on what you're going to do on the inside, I'd probably paint these a different color.
Okay.
Don't you think?
Sure.
Give it like a contrast.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to go berserk.
Yeah, that's true.
You're going to kind of lose your mind.
Yeah.
I
already kind of...
You got to do this other side of the head.
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
So you've got to take what you've done here and then extend it over onto this side. And what you'll do is, you've got it kind of wider here and narrower here. You'll then, right from this center line, you'll make it wider again. You'll basically really repeat this shape exactly over here.
Okay.
So it'll go wider. So it'll be wider than the spot that's bright here. It'll be wider, and then it'll also dip down to this edge. Okay. And they'll be pretty much even with each other. You could get away with doing.
Okay.
Right?
What about down on, like on the front, like, yeah.
Here?
Yeah.
I would kind of do the same thing. I would kind of make it to where you've got the same kind of overall blend, do it the same way you did, and just start repeating it a little bit. Okay. But I would probably make this side just a little bit brighter, so where you've just got the brightness on the edge, maybe extend it just a little bit on these sides. Oh, okay. Right, to make this side brighter.
So that side should be brighter.
Well, I don't know. You've kind of got it to where this side's brighter, so maybe not. Yeah. Maybe take this and just do it a little bit, and then over here just thinner lines and keep it darker. Okay. Yeah, because you've already kind of got this side facing with more brightness.
It's tilted like down.
Yeah, yeah. So then I guess on this also do the V that stops. Okay. Because your light, if it's brighter here, then it would only be a little bit here. Okay. Right.
So basically, then the same thing on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then same thing here. You'll just take a little bit of that shine and make a V coming down, but it won't go all the way to the bottom line. Okay. Right, just a V, and then do the same blends, but make it darker. Right, so you'll go to darkness quicker. Right. On the sides. Okay. This one over here, if your lighting is being brighter over here, then you can do it and mimic exactly what you've done here. Okay. And just have that shine come all the way down. Do the blend all the way the same. Okay. On that. Looking great. Thanks. All right. You got to come up with colors. The colors. I spent my entire GW career making this model. Yeah, right. Minipainterluke. Thank you, man. What's going on? You meant the old 800-page color catalogs? Yeah. Yours were softback? Oh, I don't. Ours were hardback, but maybe it's because we had the store copies. They were the ones that when you went into the GW stores, you'd have the hard copies that you could dig through. Dave Taylor came into the GW store once that you frequented in SoCal. Really nice guy. He's a great guy. Really good, positive attitude in the hobby. Always was. He's Australian, so what do you expect?
Oh, really?
He's just a nice guy. Australians are like Canadians with bad rap. So.
The Australians have a bad rap?
Yeah. Well, because they're all criminals, right?
Well, yeah, legs and pollute my britches with delight.
Bug King, what is going on?
King.
All right, so let's figure out some colors. Obviously, we're going to start on the skin. That may not be obvious, but we're going to start on the skin and work outward because there's so much of the fleshy bits on the body, right? And everything else will probably work mostly with brush, right? So we've got the penitent in there with all of the chaosy growths that are holding the penitent cockpit to the front. I've got all these umbilical cord looking green stuff things that I've done that have it growing out of the belly of the beast there. But we've got the four limbs, and then the body of the Great Chaos Beast, and then the undead dragon tail that all have to get colored. And I'm thinking that we'll probably start with like skin tones, and then we'll overpaint those skin tones, maybe with our transparents, to get some really cool blending of colors and spot some things on there. I think I like that idea. So we'll base it like we're painting human flesh, so we get that kind of pinkish brown going on. How about them apples? Sound good? I guess I should start using the colors out of the actual bottles now because we have them. So all the new colors are out. So we're gonna start with black brown.
Do you know what I did? I was like, all right, I've used dark blue on this, so I need to find dark blue. And I was looking for one of the new bottles, and I'm like, oh, I should probably go grab one. I'm like, no, because I still have a whole bunch in the sample bottle.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to take one off the shelf.
When you hear a story and see this model, all I hear is one piece at a time. This was a fun one. This was probably one where we had a kind of a induced hobby time for everybody that worked at our office in the bunker in Southern California, right? Because my office was located in the bunker, along with the VP and our inside sales team, and we had a imposed hobby day, which I think was Thursdays. It might have been Wednesdays. I don't remember. Where everybody had to work on models. And we did that so that the sales staff got infused in some cool ideas and creativity about the hobby, so that when we had to talk about the new models the next week coming out and all the stuff you had to do, you know, that they weren't just like, and you have another SKU of Chaos Marines. And, you know, they were jazzed about it. They were like, oh, man, I built this last week. It's really cool. It's a great model, that kind of stuff. So, Scott Volkmer, you know it. That's the original hunk of metal Chaos Hell Cannon from the Chaos Dwarves, right? I think it was just called a Chaos Hell Cannon, but it was Chaos Dwarves that manned it, right? And yes, that is the Hell Cannon from Warhammer Fantasy Battles. The body is the greater Chaos Spawn, or Giant Chaos Spawn from Forge World, right? That's the four limbs are from the Giant Chaos Spawn as well. They used to come out of his back. The arms and legs are from a Sisters of Battle Penitent Engine, or Witch Hunter Penitent Engine. It's got two sets of arms, obviously. It's got the Metal Reaper autocannons from the Chaos Space Marine Havocs. The missile launcher from like a Land Raider or something. The sides of the backpack from the Chaos Lord, the old Chaos Lord model, is, you know, the one that was a Space Marine, and his backpack had grown out to these skulls. So chop those off, and those are the targeting arrays for the weapons, and then guitar cord for the umbilical cords for all of that, and then various other unsundry, like I don't remember what the tips for the rockets were from, and then tons of green stuff. Like I said, a undead dragon. Or Chaos Dragon. I think it was the Undead Dragon, though. I think it was the Undead Lord on Dragon the tail came from. Right? And then just a ton of green stuff to make it all look like it's supposed to be there. And then the base is from Elric's Hobbies. Tony from Elric sent me that base, along with a bunch of Chaos bases. And it's super awesome wow. And it fit this model a lot better than the stupid piece of masonite that I cut out with my teeth. And we won't talk about that. Seventh Forge, what is going on? Good to see you. Welcome back. We're going to fill up some paint in the old Grex and get to painting. Russ, that's not going to happen. Not because we're mean people, but that's just not going to happen.
It's got to be like any day, right? Any day now, right? For him?
Yeah. Yeah, in the UK, you should be able to. I think I'm going to go ahead and put the paints live this weekend, so stay on the lookout for paints in the UK and the EU, the new ones, and then also all of the singles in the US and North America, Canada. I'll have singles available on there too. I'm planning on probably making that go live tomorrow. Don't have a time for you yet, but that's the plan. Darth Mullen did a gray value workup and used transparent black, right?
Nice.
Right? Yep, and transparent black is absolutely great for pen washing. All of the transparents are great for pen washing because they are paints that stay where you put them. So if you use like a detail brush and the transparent paints and you don't thin them super, I mean, you can thin them however much you want, but if you use them straight out of the bottle, like the black and the brown make great dirty pen wash colors right out of there. Magos, yes, it was Westminster. Right off of Golden West, I think, was the street there by the Home Depot where our office was. All right. Start laying some brown in along the body here. This black brown is a super good base layer for any kind of like Caucasian or African or any kind of human skin tone that you're doing, and some inhuman skin tones as well. But definitely for anything that you want to do standard flesh tones on, the black brown is where I shoot people to go first. It gives you a really good, rich shadow color without being too light. As you can see, it's almost, in some cases, kind of indistinguishable from the black itself, but it does give that brown tone. And we thin this about half and half, probably about 50% thin. We want to make sure we get some opacity to it because that brown needs to show in the shadows. We don't want and don't like necessarily pure black on models. It's not that you can't use it, it's just not an interesting color in most cases. Black is a good mixer. And you find when you want to paint something and have it look like it's black that you use a lot of other colors in it too, grays and browns and blues and purples and what have you, to make your blacks more interesting. If you just paint with black or we just leave our shadows black, you lose a lot of the depth and the feel to the model that really makes it tell a better story. I'm going to go ahead and paint all of the weird bony flesh on the tail.
Hey, somebody likes us.
Hey, thank you for the follow.
Only because Amazon Prime.
Only because Amazon Prime is stalking
Hey,
us.
you
Wait
know
a
what?
second. What? Do you have insider information?
You can get that
Hey,
free Twitch
somebody likes
Prime.
us.
Might as well use it. And Atomic Pants.
Atomic Pants. Great name.
Might want to go to a doctor though.
Do you have to be careful when you dress if you have atomic pants?
Yeah, could be.
I feel like maybe there's a
be
little bit of a
dangerous.
different get ready in the morning kind of thing going on there. So welcome everybody. If you're just tuning in, we are just now starting to do base coats on this custom one-of-a-kind Chaos Defiler that I made 13 years ago. And I'm just now, that's how slow we are at finishing projects around here. Like, damn, dude. Old.
All right, so only because Amazon Prime said, "Hey man, found you through Kenny, longtime brush slicker here, new to the airbrush scene. What's the recommended PSI I use and Iwata?"
So I tell people that I generally like people to start when I'm teaching them at somewhere around 20. I think any lower than that, you start learning some bad habits. But depending on where you're at, you might find 15 to 18 works really well if it's very humid. But in most cases, I would say about 20 is a great starting point. And then, from there, I paint normally at about 22 to 25. Right now, it's set at 30. Kind of a joke around here that we went to the conventions this season, and we had a lot of guest painters in our booth. And some of the guest painters paint very high PSI, so we kind of conned everybody into a kind of an easy mid-ground, and we had everybody painting at 30 PSI. So when I got back, I was lazy and I never reset the valve.
So what does the PSI do?
What's that?
What does the PSI do?
Well, PSI is...
I thought it was just air pressure.
Yeah, it is. It's pounds per square inch.
Okay.
And so the higher the air pressure, the more air that's being forced out when you pull the trigger. So the more air that's forced out, right, you would think that in some cases you get better suction because it creates a better vacuum when you've got more pressure. But sometimes that's not what you want because it also, the higher the pressure coming out of a reduced size nozzle like what we use for miniature painting, 0.3, 0.2, whatever it is that you're painting with on your gun, the higher the pressure, right, the more aggressive the atomization of the paint is going to be because as you force more air through a small hole, think of when you put your thumb over the end of a water hose, right? So you close the aperture of the water hose, and what happens?
It just sprays everywhere.
The spray gets harder, right?
Yeah.
And so when you do that with your airbrush, same thing happens. As you turn up the pressure, it's like putting your thumb over the hole of the hose. And so you get higher pressure paint coming out, which sometimes isn't what you want. It can cause spattering. It can cause weird textures in some cases. A lot of it has to do with the barometric pressure, the altitude that you're painting at. We're very dry here in Arizona, so with a lot of air forcing through, if I turn the air pressure up to 40 or 50 psi, the paint dries in the air because there's so much air pressure going that those droplets of paint, when they atomize, start to cure, and I get lots of texture on the model and spotting and things I don't like. We already, at 22 psi, have to use a crap ton of flow improver to keep our paint from starting to actually cure in midair when it's hot and dry in the summer, 119, 120 degrees outside. And all our paint wants to do is dry in the bottle. So, but I usually tell people, like 20 psi. And then see what you like. Sometimes people will make the mistake of when they're starting out to run at a lower PSI because they're kind of afraid of pulling the trigger. And they feel like at a low PSI it saves them some of the problem of when they pull the trigger getting paint to kind of spray out all over the place. Don't do that. Just go ahead and learn the hard way. Thank you for that follow. Welcome. Just go ahead and learn. You'll learn your trigger control better if you have it at a higher PSI. Running it at a lower PSI, you won't get as good of a output no matter what you do. And you'll learn to not be afraid of it over time. So just roll with them punches. All right, so there's a good coat of the black brown to get our body color started in there, and that really deep chocolate color on there. And now we'll do some shadow flesh, and I'm just going to add it right to the dang bottle, or to the cup. You're a weird texture. Bastard. New lid gasket? What are we talking about? Oh, the new lid gasket in the bottles, yeah. I haven't opened all the colors yet, right? I figured it'd be better for us to start using the actual labeled paint bottles than our sample bottles now. At least when the cameras are on. So we can say, look at the wonderful paint we're using. We're going to move up to Shadow Flesh, another new color. Both the black brown and the Shadow Flesh that I'm using are part of the #1 expansion set. Expansion #1 for ProCro. Our paint line, our very own paints that we manufacture. And this is our first expansion release for these. And we are super stoked with the attention that it's getting. The response that it's receiving from people as they get them is great. Once we start seeing models painted with them, I think it's going to be even better. Especially the people that are really excited about the transparents.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm really excited to start seeing what everybody's doing with the transparent paints once they get them in their hands.
It's been really cool because a lot of people, as they've been getting them and breaking them out right away, have been posting in the group on Facebook. We have a
Stephanie posted up
creature community on Facebook if you are not part of that.
Exclamation point community in chat.
And join up. Post your pictures. We love to see the pictures of people trying out their new paint.
Okay, Rob asked, why does it take as long to ship from British Columbia as it did from AZ? What do you mean? It took longer from British Columbia, or you got something quick from British Columbia? I don't understand.
Shinkai said, hey Jason, I want to build up a golden color. Should I base in golden brown, then highlight golden yellow, or should I use yellow ochre and highlight golden yellow I know the question seems obvious, but yellow ochre and golden brown look really close to the same color to me.
When I see the golden brown is actually kind of like a highlight. Our current golden brown is a highlight color to the yellow ochre. So depending on what you want to do, I generally start with like a dark umber, and then I start working into the yellow ochre, and then into the golden brown, if that's the way you want to go. And then you in one of the ivory style colors. You can do the new olive skin tone or just plain ivory, and then move to bright ivory. That would be my recommendation.
Oh. I think it takes longer. Kevrab said, I ordered the 2 sets last weekend and they won't get to me until the 24th.
He did what?
Ordered the 2 sets last weekend and they won't get to him until the 24th.
From BC? That makes sense. That doesn't make sense. Blame Canada Post. From what I can tell, Canada Post is one of the worst postal services on the planet.
And we live in the U.S.
We start to like the U.S. Postal Service more and more
when
the
I
more we ship internationally.
When I started being happy with the USPS, we know it's a weird day. We do
because for all its flaws,
our return mailman though, he's a good guy.
For all its flaws, the U.S. Postal Service gets it there quick.
They really do. I mean, you know, for me to be able to send something and to get to a lot of places the next day is pretty impressive. I mean, obviously, if I mail something to someone here in Arizona, it'll get to them the next day, but it can get to California the next day, and Nevada. A lot of places that it gets there pretty quick. And then everything else is like 2. They really aren't that bad.
We just like to bitch about it.
Yeah.
Because, you know,
because
anytime you pay that much money to a thing and then it messes up once and you're like, what are you doing?
Plus, we like to fit in and complain about stuff.
I'm forcing this color into pretty much all the areas where we did the darker brown too, except for the very bottoms of things. I don't want to. This is kind of mixing on the model to create my shadow color, if you will. I've taken that dark black brown, and now I'm taking the shadow flesh color and spraying it over the top of it, controlling my consistency, so I've got it a little bit thinner than the black brown was. And now that color on the model gives me a little bit of shading where I need it, or a lot of shading where I need it, but it's mostly going to be the mix between these colors, as opposed to trying to start using the shadow flesh now to give me value on the model. Notice how I'm not angling the model from the top down or anything like that. I'm spraying this color up into the shadows, up underneath the arms, torso, whole nine. So I can get a little bit more of an interesting color in the shadows, right? This will give me kind of a bicolored deal as opposed to just the brown, the black brown, right? So now we get this little bit lighter color going on. It'll give me a good basis for skin.
Maui, who knows? Maybe someday you'll be able to buy Monument hobby glue. I don't know.
You'll be able to what?
He said, I'm sad I can't order hobby glue and get it in 2 days because we don't sell it anymore.
Huh.
And I said, maybe someday there will be a Monument hobby glue. Who knows?
Yeah, we still have got big plans for all the rest of the hobby supplies that we want to do. It's just going to take us a little while. As you can imagine, trying to get into the habit of releasing a new model every month, along with all of the paint updates and the general maintenance of the store and stuff, for a limited amount of personnel and hours in the week. We've got a lot of stuff lined up on our wish list, rest assured. And the more we can tick stuff off of that list, the more excited I think you guys will be as we start heading back to, oh, check it out, I can get that at Creature Caster. Oh, I can get that at Creature Caster. All right, now I'm going to use some of the shadow flesh without any mix with the black brown. There was still probably half and half black brown in the pot that time. So now we're just going to go straight shadow flesh in the airbrush. Buy all the stuffs. It's the only way to do it, right? Unicorn horns. Do we have those? That'd be interesting. I think there's...
They're in the secret catalog.
I think there's import laws, import-export laws, very strict ones against the
we don't harm our
sale
unicorns.
and transport of unicorn horn. And even more so than like ivory and stuff.
It's true. It's just because it's that much more rare.
Darth Mullen is olive green in the next expansion. What are you talking about? You don't like the camo greens that we have already? What do you want from olive green? Olive green is one of those colors that doesn't exist as a pigment, and so everybody's notion of olive green is totally different, right? You look at olive green and...
I didn't see that question.
Right.
Oh, there it is. Sorry, Darth Mullen, I missed that.
Now you'll notice I'm going to start laying in just from one angle at first. All right, so now my brush is going to become a light source like we talk about all the time. And the model is going to start blocking paint from being able to reach certain things. You'll notice some of those spikes that I hit intentionally heavy. All right, so that now I start getting shadows away from it, like falling down this side of the head and things like that. And I'll keep that angle for the time being, and then we'll start changing it up once we take a look at the model and see where all it's hitting, how much shadow we're getting, stuff like that. So I'm just going to pull the model forward towards me a little bit. Keep the same angle I'm shooting here, but I'm going to pull the model towards me, tilt it just a little bit, but I haven't moved my airbrush. Right? And I'm just going to pull the trigger more so I get color forced down onto that tail. But my angle stays the same. I've just lifted the model up so that I can get to spray down that direction. All right. Okay, cool. So now when we look at it, right, we start getting all sorts of shadow building up just from using that directional spray. Now my shadow is going to be a little intense for what I want, so I will go ahead now and let's do it the same orientation. So we were spraying the model like this. Now I'll rotate the model a little bit like this and see how our shadow becomes evident. But I'll keep the airbrush the same way it was, and I'll just feather down that area where I know the shadow was, right? This shadow flesh color is so amazing. You can see how as you build it up, you just get such an amazing skin tone from that and the black brown, throwing one over the other. All right, so now our shadow is forced a little bit down around the tube of the body, the torso. I'm going to go ahead and tilt it even further and feather a little bit more, even all the way underneath like that, just so I don't get that really hard contrast to shadow. Right? I still get it going from bright to not so bright, but I lay a little bit of this color down here. Just feathering, riding that point on the airbrush between paint and no paint. Right. Same thing this way. I'm going to go ahead and fire paint down a little bit more aggressive into the shadows.
Our dropper bottle upright paint rack is going to be back in stock too, now that I have a ton of paint.
What's that?
Dropper bottle racks, we're getting those back.
They're on the way.
And
The production on them is finished, and they're just require shipping to us. And I've been working on, again, trying to find another North American supplier.
Hi,
and
Maui.
I think we're working on that to the point to where I can be confident that we can make that happen here pretty soon. And if that happens, then racks will be a lot easier for us to keep in stock. It's been a real pain over the last year. Our manufacturer is really, really good, and the quality is super good. But the timing is just a pain in the butt, right?
Mauiblood's leaving. Say goodbye.
Says goodbye.
He's leaving.
Bye.
Yeah.
I can't hear anything, guys. Sorry. I'm deaf. She's yelling at me, and I still can't hear her.
Darth Mullen was asking about the olive green.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And he's looking for something that's less blue, a little more yellow. I use P3 Ordic Olive and like the hue because it's a little warmer.
And so our camo green isn't there for you.
More blue, I guess. Maybe,
Yeah, we can look at it. I don't
mix
think
a
the next
little
set's going to have
golden
many
brown
greens in
Or
it.
something.
To be honest with you, I think we've got some other colors that I'm looking at, a couple of reds, a couple of brighter colors, stuff like that, but I can't say no. I just know that our goal for the next set is right now it doesn't have a focus on a whole lot of greens. I think there's a call for a bright jade. So if you like our jade color, a brighter version of that is coming.
I love our jade.
Everybody loves jade. It's the new color of the crinkle wrap inside the paints now.
Past couple days, paint has come with jade crinkle paper because we love our jade.
It's so good. It's one of those where when I ordered it, I was like, I don't know what this is going to look like, but hopefully it'll be cool. And when we got the box, it was like, ooh, that's really good.
Yeah.
Okay, again, just shooting a little bit into the shadows there. And now we start getting that flesh tone working up. We got that nice, bright, kind of human-y skin tone on the top. But now we get our shadows looking pretty decent as well.
Cat herder is what we got to do, though. I think of what's next.
Got a what?
Think of what's next. Cat herder said, please, we've just got the new paints and you're already hinting at the future.
We have to. As a manufacturer, you never stop looking at what's next. You got to remember, I've been painting with these paints for a long time, right?
I think they remember.
They probably remember. They're probably still mad about it. Too soon?
Especially people who don't have them yet.
Too soon? Like, we're already on to the next thing, man. You're going to get your paints, your new set, and be like, that's already so last year. Yeah, that's one of the things with manufacturing, right, is you get excited about releasing the product. Like, we are super stoked every time we have a product release, and we're already like, okay, we got to be thinking, you know, when the new bottles, you know, need to get ordered for the next paints. And we're like, what? We just got done. What do you mean? We got to work more? Like, yeah, that's kind of how that works. Damn it.
That works.
Damn it. All right, clean the brush out real quick. You're already pulling out your wallet again. The next paint set will only be 8 colors.
We'll give you time.
Yeah, we're going to go down. We said originally, if you've been following along, which most of you have since the origination of the paints, our main goal was to release paints in like sets of 8. So there was never a huge amount. This first release having 24 paints in it was just kind of our way of saying, you know what, let's front load and get the line to be pretty extensive right out of the gates, which is almost unheard of for a paint line that's only 6 months old. You know, we only came out at Black Friday last year, so we're 8 months old, 7 months old now, whatever it is.
Well, and technically, we didn't get them in people's hands until
yeah, I mean, it's taken us a
December.
while, right? So it's been a growing process for us, and you know, so not even being a year old with our paint line and having 53 paints, I think is a pretty good coup, right? We're showing people that have had 48 and 64 colors for years and years, right? Somebody made a comment that you've already got more paints than freaking Vallejo Game Air, you know? And it's just been our goal to make sure that we brought this quality of paint out, and we want everybody to be able to have a color that they like, that they can turn to in a lot of situations. We're still not going to be your paint that has 400 colors, you know, and you're going to replace every other paint line ever. That's not our goal. But, you know, if you've got a blue, we'll have a blue you love. If you got a gray, you'll have grays you can use. Greens, all that is our goal. So. Can you do a neon Genesis purple and green? What do you mean? Like our current dark purple with purple and our current yellow green? The bright yellow green? I think
a bright yellow green is...
Have you not seen bright yellow green?
I mean, that's pretty close to neon.
Yeah, so like bright yellow green is fantastic.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Probably the brightest color we make, next to our yellow. I think it is.
Yeah, I think it's brighter than yellow.
Our yellow and our orange and this will make our brightest colors. And it's great.
Take some blue and mix it with purple.
A blue violet. You'll see something. There's a color, if you're familiar with like our wasteland soil that we used to love from Army Painter, that kind of glaze blood color over flesh. We'll have a color that is in that line, so it's kind of a bluish, violet.
I think our purples are, well, especially the dark one. I think it's a bluish purple.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I've got to get all that list together like within the next week, believe it or not, is the timeline I'm on to get all the new paint colors lined out and decided on what we're actually going to be offering. So you can expect to hear fairly soon. I'm going to go to tan flesh. Again, I want to get a skin, a feeling on this of almost human skin. And then we'll dump some color back on it to chaos it up a little bit. Right? One of the best ways to get some very disturbing skin colors is to paint it as if it were healthy flesh, and then work over the top of that with filters. Yeah, you've seen me do it before with like our Grimkin models where we did the dogs and we painted them with like skin tone, and then we did really bright green over the top of it. Maybe we'll do something like that on this guy. Like the yellow green over the top of skin tones when you just glaze it over is a very disturbing flesh tone. Blues work really well. So I think we'll play around, and I really want to try a purple. So maybe we'll mix some colors, some of our transparent colors, like a purple and a green or something. Purples and reds and oranges and some black and bruised looking skin, I think would work really well. We'll play around and see. I'm not testing with this model. For those of you that are out there going, oh God, he's doing it again. One of those where we spray a bunch of color, and I'm hoping I don't have to come back and redo it. That's not the goal for this guy. I want to get it right the first time, if I can. So again, now we're going to just aim from this one angle. Right, I might rotate the model a little bit here and there, but I'm not going to pick it up on the base as aggressively as I did before. Knee. That's not a knee. Yeah, Spawn has no knees.
They need a knee to walk though?
All right, so rather than tilting it like this so I get color on it, I'm only going to tilt about to here. All right, so that I can just pick up some of the spikes and folds in the skin as it goes down the back there. Keep that pretty steep angle on there. Almost like dry brushing with an airbrush, if that makes any sense. All right, you're using the angle of the model to guarantee that the highlights only rest on certain spots, so that when I look at it, right, I get that darkness where I want it. I don't overtake my base colors too badly. And we want brighter on this side over here. Cool. That. Top of the not really knees. A little bit of brightness on the tail, not too much. Little dusting underneath.
What color are you using right now?
Right now I'm using tan flesh. So we've used black, brown, shadow flesh, and now tan flesh. Okay. I cut this light back down to where it's not quite at full button. There you go. Now you can see better the way that color is. That tan flesh starts to blow out the light a little bit because it gets to that brightness that starts acting like an ivory. Right, but you can see that pinkishness of the shadow flesh popping out from underneath there. Really nice. Let's move away from blue a little bit. There we go. Bring that up a little bit. There we go. That I like. That looks pretty good. A little bit of highlight on those. Are those biceps? I don't even know if that's what that is. On this alien forearm here, right? On a little bit of brightness right here at the elbow-looking thing. Go back in and spot check our colors. Make sure I'm happy with it all. That looks pretty good. Now, because we're going to be filtering color over the top of it, I'm going to go even brighter. So we'll wash this out. And I'll use some of the olive skin tone over the top of that, just to give us some nice shine areas. Because anytime you place a color over a base coat, you're going to lose some of the value that you put on your base coat. So if you've done a very dark shadow, a good mid-tone, and a really good highlight, you put a color over that, it's going to make your shadow darker, your mid-tone darker, and your highlight darker, to where it may bring your colors, depending on how bright you went, into the world where you don't see a real highlight. Everything is kind of a mid-tone. And then you highlight back up with that. And that's a way that a lot of people paint, is they just expect that to happen.
Likes us.
I tend to paint brighter
Korean rap
than expected.
god.
What's going on? Korean rap god. Is that a thing?
Yes.
It must be, because he's
follow
here.
this.
Thank you for that follow. What's going on? I tend to just paint brighter than you would expect, so it looks a little funky at this stage that we're about to do. So I'm going to take the olive skin tone. Let's grab the real bottle of olive skin tone. That's not it. That's metallic medium. Olive flesh.
I was going to say, I have one with an upside down label right here. I did take one of those.
Again, these are all brand new. Notice how all of our paints are sealed for your protection, it says, but it's really for freshness. I guess that protects you from unfresh things.
From being angry that your paint's all dried out.
My paint wasn't so fresh, Fuse.
So it
Why is that?
definitely protects against that.
So we're protecting you from that. Right? From those not so fresh days. I feel like that's one of those commercials we see during your shows.
No, they don't do commercials for those anymore, I don't think.
They don't? Was that douches?
People learned that it's not
Horrible
really
for you?
healthy.
It's pretty horrible for you.
So we don't promote that. Instead, we just promote all
We
kinds
stopped promoting that. It just disappeared, right?
We now just instead fill up the airtime with medication commercials.
Medication. Do not use this medication if you're allergic to this medication. Stop using this medication if you die. Welcome to our world. All right. So again, I'm finding that same angle I've been painting at the whole night, and my airbrush is at that same angle over here, right? And I'm just going to now start building up like a bright spot, kind of a hot spot on the top of his forehead. Shoulder. This, I'm not using the model's angle. I'm literally just going in and picking where I want paint, right? So I'm going to go a little bit of hot spot there, a little hot spot there, there, like so. All right? If you can see what I'm doing here, if I block some of that light, you can see where I'm going in with that brightness. So rather than spraying the whole model and just using the angle, since we did that last time, if I do that here, I cover all of my paint from my last go-round. That's not the intention. The intention with this coat is to go in and give me hot spots. Forehead, this fold, that fold, that fold. So I'm going in and just quickly hitting these spots, right? I'll fold the model over just a little bit, get in here close. And just spot a little bit of highlight on some of these other areas. Like so. All right, get a little bit on this. That's not a knee thing down here. Just like so. Feather a little bit back. A little bit on the top of the tail, even though I think the top of the tail is bones. So we'll just get that skin a little bit there. That's it. Probably all we need. That's probably all we need. That looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. Now the light today is just really washing everything out. You can see how that's not really as blown out as the camera is showing it. If the white balance got janked up on the camera or what's going on. We can see what we got going on here. Just a little bit of spot highlight. All right, now we got to figure out what we want to do for coloring over this guy. I'm thinking it would be kind of cool because it's very patchy, right? I mean, it's got like mouths, this maw growing out of the side of its neck, right? It's got like 1, 2, 3 mouths, right? So I'm thinking like having some color from the head that went around to this maw, right? Kind of maybe a blackish red, and then blend that into like a purplish, maybe, over the back, and then out of the purple into I don't know what else. Like getting onto the tail where all the skin is completely rotted off and it's just exposed bone, you know, coming out of the purple into maybe a brownish green or something. Just have a bunch of really sick colors going on. Let's play around with it and see. Clean the brush out. Start working with some transparent colors here and see what we get. I'm in love with our transparents, if you can't tell. Finding new ways to have them do amazing things over base coats is going to be a lot of what I experiment with over the next probably years. Like we said, we got a lot of people that are already posting about how excited they are to get transparent paints that are based on a paint that is just a solid paint to begin with. And a lot of people have said, hey, I use the Tamiya transparents for some stuff like painting old Thousand Suns or whatever, right? And I'm like, yes, you can use ours now instead and have much better paint. Never mind, you're blind, you just looked at the purple. Kinda. Megos, are we still on dark flesh? No, I mean, it's not dark flesh anymore. I don't know when you asked that.
That was when I asked you what color you were using.
Yeah, okay.
You said tan flesh.
Yeah, tan flesh. So we've gone through 4 colors here, the black brown to the shadow flesh to the tan flesh, and then finally to the olive flesh, right? So we've got that kind of pop of highlight in places where we need it. We've got a good fleshy shadow color down below, all that working. So I'm wanting to, I think, start with the purple, right? I think we're going to be daring, and we're just going to kind of start with the purple over the flesh and see what we get. And then the nice thing with the transparents is I can continue to layer other colors on top of that. I'm going to thin it way down, right? But our transparent purple is going to be the feature color for the moment. And unlike the other day, I'm learning with you guys that I can't be as aggressive with the color in the airbrush because it doesn't take very much to thin it down. So I'm only going to put like a drop of color in here, right? There's a drop. We'll go 2. 2 drops of purple in there. So barely any paint at all. And then we will add in a good dose of thinner here. So probably 10 drops of thinner to 2 drops of paint, if you want to think in terms of how I'm thinning. 10 to, or 5 to 1, would that be it? 10 to 2, 5 to 1, sounds about legit. It's going to give me way more paint than I need, but I haven't really wasted anything, right? Because it started with 2 drops, and it's mostly just water, a mix of water and flow improver that I put in a bottle. And you see how thin the transparent is? See this consistency? But notice how there's no chunking. Like if you thinned a paint down that much, a normal paint to get it to that opacity or lack thereof of opacity, imagine the chalkiness you'd get, the amount of pigment that you'd see going everywhere. But look at how smooth our paint is at this thin. That's the power of these transparents. That's the magic, so to speak. Right, so again, we've been showing me painting over my tattoos. Right, if I go in and I just kind of feather this purple over that green tongue, see the kind of effect I get? I can color it as purple as I need, but I still get some of that green popping through. So I can control exactly how much the transparency affects the base layer. Right, if I barely glaze any of it onto the mouth area, see the difference between the green in the mouth and the green on the tongue, but I'm still getting that purple hue shot onto that. That's what we're looking for here. Give it a very good bruised flesh feel. And unlike a normal paint where I would have to focus in on certain areas, here I plan on just dusting the whole surface. I can leave fleshy bits poking out that don't have a lot of purple on them. I want to make sure that it doesn't look like I just didn't angle the model right, though. Right? And what this has given us is like a really, almost a bright magenta because of the way the flesh tone is interacting with it, right? I'm going to spray it up into the shadows even though I know I'm going to hit the underside with a different color. Like I'm already thinking like a good bluish, maybe a mix of blue-green in the shadows would work really good. Or maybe we just mix some blue in with this purple in the shadows. I love the playfulness of this paint. Yeah, and just making sure I hit every angle here so there isn't anywhere that looks like I just missed it because I wasn't aiming properly. Darker where our shadows were, brighter where normal bright skin tones were, and we get this kind of weird, crazy, fleshy purple color starting to happen out of that I really dig. A little more aggressive with the purple in the darkest shadows here. Underneath. Go ahead and just pound the purple in to the belly area too, even though I know I'm going to go over it with another color. I'm really liking this purple. So I'm going to be more aggressive with it underneath so that whatever color I lay in there will work along with it.
Using transparent purple?
Yep. Yes, indeed. Very, very thin. I'm just going in and, like I said, building it up in the shadows a little bit more so I can hit areas like up underneath the arm there. If that's an armpit, I don't know if that's an armpit. We're going to go with yes, that's an armpit. Bottom side of the cheekbone here. Inside the eye sockets. Aiming from the bottom up in most cases, as you can tell, so I'm not getting very deep purple on any of my very bright areas. I'm just shooting it up into the shadows as I need. So like these eye sockets, getting close. Some deep purple in there. Each where every spot these little spikes pooch out, grab the pretty dark purple on the back side of the skin there. Going up the spine. Right. Got some good shadow built up. We maintain that brightness from our undercoat, right? It acts like a pre-highlight for our purple. Now our purple only gets dark where our skin tones got dark. Right? Same kind of spotting and highlighting that we add. We get that real pale, kind of deathly bruised purple. I'm digging that. Raw flesh looking. Continue to get the back side of each of these little spikes. Pretty good. All right. Now we figure out some other colors. I think I want to maybe play with the shadows a little bit. I like this a lot. Back in and make sure I've got all these dark spots on the arms as they go in towards the body. dark enough. Underside of the tail. Darken underneath that arm. That's pretty amazing right there, right? I mean, I know it's kind of washing out for you guys a little bit because of the camera, but that's a pretty amazing skin tone just by doing the normal human flesh. Like all we did was the regular human browns and then go over it with the transparent purple. And you saw me just guide it until I got it to where I was feeling like, yeah, I'm kind of digging, you know, the way it's layering up. It goes from kind of a pinkish tone in some places to then I can get it really dark purple where we didn't have all of the brighter flesh tones on there. All right, so if you just wanted to do a real quick army, you can see how spraying them with a skin tone, you wouldn't even have to do 4 colors like we did. Spray it with like a dark skin and a bright skin and then go over it with a purple and you can get some really cool effects super fast. All right, because that purple is really cool. It gives us that pale kind of deathly color. But I also want to go in and I want to get in and around like the face, the maw and the eyes with some reddish, right? Some anywhere anything pokes out, I want to make it look a little raw. So let's get some red transparent. Right. I don't think I want to mix them. I'm going to clean this out and just go straight red. See, cleans up out of the bowl like any other paint. No residue, no weirdness to it. In some aspects, it's even quicker and easier to clean up because it's so transparent to start with that you don't have to wash out a whole lot before the color stops being an issue. But you can see the kind of vibrancy we're still getting. We did this with the purple on Thursday, right? Yesterday, and showed you how vibrant it was. Even after, or with the blue, even after thinning it down as much as we did. There we go, we're pretty much clean now. Seventh Forge, Now You're in Love, they're amazing, man. They literally are amazing. I think that they will change the game for you in a lot of cases. Depending on, you know, the kinds of stuff that you like to do. If you're not afraid to use filters over your colors, if you're at the point in your painting where you're comfortable being able to take certain colors that don't seem like they would go well together and just play around with them, I think that the transparents are going to be absolutely fantastic for you. For everybody else, they're just going to be great because they just are so amazing for if you just want to go in and do vibrancy, you know, adding on to the brown leathers like we've been doing a lot in the past. There's just so much you can do with them. Again, we'll put a lot of thinner in with this red. I want this red probably even thinner than the purple was. Right, so again, probably, you know, somewhere between 5 and 10 to 1 thinner to transparent. Now you can use them straight out of the airbrush. We've shown you, you know, you can spray them just as bright as you want. As a matter of fact, we did this model with the transparent green and the transparent yellow to show you can get like a really cool glow effect, and that's just unthinned right out of the bottle. The green and then the yellow shot over the green, and you can get like a cool like top-down OSL style effect very, very quickly. The way they blend, the fact that they don't, let's zoom in on this, right? The fact that they don't spot like a, you know, like a, and chalk up like a paint. I mean, that's just hitting it super, super fast with the airbrush. Right? And you can see how the transparent yellow over that transparent green over just a base coat gives you some really, really cool interaction. So for OSL effects, if you're just wanting to do some really fast, you know, lighting effects and stuff on your models, these paints are going to blow your mind. Especially the yellow and the orange. If you want to do like a glow from a fire, you know, paint the fire on, like a guy's got a fiery hand, paint the fire like you normally would with reds, oranges, and yellows. Then you use our orange and our yellow transparent through an airbrush and just spritz it on the model. Just a spritz.
Just a spritz.
Right? And you'll be blown away. Alright, we're going to horse out the purple, make sure the purple's gone. We just get to the red. Feeling pretty good about that. And now, let's go in and let's just use these spots where the metallic arms are coming up out of the flesh here. Right, and I'm just going to start getting in close. I might be a half an inch away here. Feel like I've got some gunk on the needle. I do. Even the transparents will dry on the tip because they are just acrylic paints. They're not washes or inks. So they will, just like a normal paint, start to clog your needle. You'll have to clean your needle just like any other paint. I'm just looking at all these spikes and things coming out of his back here. My light wasn't washing out so bad tonight. I don't know why it is. That's better. Such bright colors. All right, so like this area in here where this mechanical arm is protruding from the flesh. Just want to get in close. Notice how easily we can just get in there and give it that kind of irritated skin. And because you're using transparent paint, you're not so worried about what your mixture is like. You know, are you going to blow the paint out? Is it going to cause you a problem like a normal paint might if you start to? I mean, if you pool it, you're still going to have issues with the airbrush, but you could just as easily be painting this with a brush. I got a little bit of dry paint right around the base here. Microsurgery here. All right. We can get in and very simply just kind of layer in that red. Do it all over these places where we've got these spikes coming out of the skin. Give it that irritated nature. Do it around these mouths. Last I checked, you're not supposed to have a mouth going out of the side of your neck. That's got to be painful. Will make it look a little irritated. That's why he's so angry. That's why he's shooting at everybody. Like, if you had a mouth with a rat tail growing out of the side of your neck, you'd be pissed off too. Just saying.
You're not wrong.
These little torn flesh areas we can get in and kind of halo some red around those. Look how amazing that is. Right? It's not like we're spraying a paint, but we're getting a painted effect. This is something that you would do with glazing and would take you a very long time to get that kind of effect, to get this little bit of irritated red around these areas. And yet it doesn't look like we're airbrushing it, right? Get that one right around the edge of the lip there. Notice how I can get that opacity build up really nicely. So if I want it to be more aggressive, like around the mouth here, I just come back and layer up a little bit more. I gotta be careful, I don't want it to look like bad lipstick. And just come back and lightly kind of swirl it around on those torn skin openings. Got all sorts of problems. Trip to the doctor I don't think is going to help him at this point, but you know. So we've got all this area here where the skin has got all these tears, these little tears in it. I feel like that would also just have this irritated flesh feel. Doing stuff like this has never been easier. I'm not even gonna lie. This is a game changer. Clear my needle again.
T. Schmid said, I'm late. What on earth is that beast?
Haha.
It is a beast.
This is the one and only, and I mean one and only, custom defiler that I built eons and eons ago. Been having fun with having everybody see if they can guess what parts I used for it. It's got all sorts of crazy old Warhammer and 40K parts, Warhammer Fantasy and 40K parts. That cut on his face. I mean, look at that. Look at how the transparent just blends effortlessly out to the skin on either side. So just that little bitty cut, you can run that cut through there. And you just get this I mean, for what we're doing here, this is just like cheating, right? I mean, this is so easy. Now, if you're not super comfortable with an airbrush, you know, you could be doing all this with a paintbrush and just get the exact same effect without really being too worried about it. Around the mouth here. Too easy. Starting to look pretty good. Again, I want each of these little spines on his back to look a little irritated because the things are pulling the spines are actually the missiles for the missile pod. Because why not? This one especially because it just pulled a missile out of it. Yeah, when I worked at GW, for those of you that might not have heard this story at the beginning, when I worked at GW, I had access, obviously, to all sorts of really cool parts and pieces and things and stuff, and working in an office where there were a lot of creative types doing their hobby. You always had the opportunity to like, hey, you going to use that arm for anything? The weirdest conversations when you really think about it. So, hey, I'm looking for a head. Anybody have that head from the, the Great Unclean One? You know which one I'm talking about? And everybody in the office would be like, oh, yeah, I think I got that one. And so you'd be like trading lunch for bits out of people's stash. And so this is one of the amalgamations of all of that love of doing crazy things with bits. And it includes a giant chaos spawn from Forge World for the primary body piece. It's got the chaos hell cannon for an arm. That's what this big metal chunk is right there. I feel like it's still, man, it's really gumming up. I need to like mix more flow improver actually in this. It's so dry here right now that even the transparent paint is gumming up pretty quick. There we go.
Mago said, does the trigger action airbrush give you full airstream with a slight pull, then ramp in the paint?
Yes. So here, if you can hear, I get air, and then if I pull back, like that's right there, I get air, and then if I pull back a little, I get paint. So yes.
Core Mechanical said, have you been thinking about how to paint this model for the past decade, or is this all improv?
This is all improv right now.
T. Schmidt, I got my transparents the other day, but haven't used them yet. Will they ever reach opaque if you use a billion layers of
Yes.
them?
Yeah, they'll get pretty close. As a matter of fact, you got to be careful and still thin them in most cases, or you'll get such a vibrant color that even though it won't be opaque, it might overtake your base coat to the point to where it feels like it is. Right? As you start using them, I think you'll have a lot of fun learning all of that stuff, like where the kind of start-stop points for them are, depending on how you want to use them. Like right now, I've got this thinned about 10:1 to get this irritated red out of the skin, and man, that's looking good.
Yeah, that's really cool. And that's purple transparent?
This is red transparent over the purple right now.
Okay.
The red is just giving me that irritated, all the spikes popping out of the skin kind of thing. But yeah, even if I've got this thinned way down right now, but if I grab a magic card over here, right, like that's our red, right? If I just keep building it up, right, I'm gonna get it to blow out. But you can see how you get a very vibrant red very quick. And depending on your base coat, it can start to look opaque pretty fast. Like we did the red over the purple Space Marine captain the other day. This guy. And you can see how we got to a pretty good red with only a couple of coats of the transparent. Now we didn't thin it much, but this model was very, very purple. Where's the purple that we can see? This model was super purple when we started, and we just layered a couple of coats of the red. And so now the purple just barely tints underneath the red, and the model is red, and that's the transparent red doing that. So yeah, you don't have to try real hard to get the transparent color to become the visible color there. horn above the eye. We need to get this horn over here. He's got all sorts of crazy crap growing out of his skin. And I want to say, like, you don't even have to really be, this is less my airbrush skill and more the paint, making sure that it doesn't look sloppy, right? Because the paint just blends so effortlessly on there that I'm getting all of these weird, you know, irritation spots without having to really worry about it. My only thing is getting the airbrush in close enough and not having it blow out, right? I'm running that very fine line of what we call paint, no paint, so that I don't just blast a whole bunch of paint into these really small areas that I'm painting. But other than that, right, if you've got that kind of control, then the paint does the work for you after that, right? Like I'm just gonna get in and get right underneath this metallic arm in there where it needs to be irritated. And all I gotta do is hold the model still and make sure I don't blow too much paint on there. And the paint itself does all the blending for me because of the transparency. Boy, it's really dirtying up my needle. It's drying so fast. And the red reacts so well over that purple too. So where I've got the purple shadows, the red dips into it really nice, like right here under this spot on the shoulder. Get that red to that purple. And I could have painted probably either one first. They blend together so nicely there at the shadows. That's like hours worth of normal work that we're being able to take care of pretty quickly here.
Aw, Tishmid, it's my pleasure. I know everyone was really excited to get those paints, so I wanted to get as many out as I could each day. I finally got it all caught up today, so I feel good.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I'm all caught up on others.
Nice.
I am not rested, though.
The weekend is for catching up.
Maybe.
She's caught up on work, not on sleep and stress and all of that. I was telling guys at game night the other night, I was like, yeah, the only stress times for us in our relationship is new product release,
Yep.
I think.
Yep, that is true.
Every stress levels just get to their highest, you know?
I'm not a person who is easily stressed, but yeah.
Everybody's got their breaking point.
I thought I was going to lose my mind this week. Aries Apollo wants to know if you have any color suggestions for railroad ties. He said, I figure black, brown, but not sure how to build up from there and make it look like weather ties in creosote rather than an oak barrel and such.
So black, brown as a starting color is going to be your go-to, I think. And then I would go through with probably, I would almost say like a black and a gloss lacquer or a gloss varnish mix. and go and, we pin wash things, go and maybe do some pin washing over it with a black mixed with a gloss to give it that kind of, that creosote soaked tar feel almost, right? Does that make sense as I'm saying it? I don't know if it makes sense, but in my head it makes sense. That doesn't usually mean much, though.
I think it's time for me to take a little break from the armor stuff and go back and do a little skin, just because I'm gonna lose my.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do it. Like, I jump around all the time just because you're like, oh my god, I'm staring at this thing and it's the same type of painting for weeks.
Yeah.
And you're learning, so you don't want to get to a point where you're like, I've done so well thus far, now it just feels all samey.
Well, yeah, because there are a couple parts where I'm like, why does this side not look as good as this other one? So I think it's just that one definitely is not as good.
Some of the irritated, torn flesh marks on the tail here. Out a bit. Digging that.
Let's grab this.
I gotta admit, I'm not mad that I'm using the Grex right now.
What does that mean?
It's just such a good brush.
Oh.
And we've been using the Iwatas for so long because they're good brushes for the money. But then you bust the Grex out again and you're like, okay, I'm sorry that I set you aside for so long. It's such a good brush.
God of Flesh said, so an airbrush is a time saver, or what is the main benefit over a paintbrush?
An airbrush is a definite time saver. It also can be a really good tool for blending and texturing depending on what you're trying to accomplish. Oh, that was a big blowout right there. I'm going to try something real quick. Make sure too much going on there. The reason why transparents are amazing. You just wipe away the excess. The big key for a lot of people is that they start out as just a time saver. I say just a time saver. That's huge for some people, right? Especially if you're commission painting and such. You can cut down your primer expenditure because primer for airbrush will happen a lot quicker and at a lot less primer spent, because rather than a rattle can where you're painting 90% of the paint on the piece of wood that your models are sitting on, an airbrush is very specific in its paint placement. You get to control that. You don't lose as much material. For doing small detail work like I'm doing now, it's a lot faster, and it also gives a really good tight blend. So when I'm going in and doing these spots, right, of skin and this irritation around all of these horns, notice how the airbrush just instantly blends all that. I don't have to worry about my brush direction. I don't have to worry about the glaze consistency. Just the atomization of the paint alone is doing the work. Now we're also using our own transparents, if you weren't aware of that, and our transparent paints are amazing for this. The magic is in the fact that they do all of this effortless blending and makes it super, super simple. I mean, I'm not even getting any spotting or any kind of weird blowout of the paint. Elbow a little bit. And then all of these weird torn flesh as it goes in and turns into the claw here as well. think I'm going to start playing around with more and more flow improver with them. As opposed to just the water. We just thinned this one with water and a little bit of flow improver, then a mix that I made after that show that, I think it was a Friday show, where we played around with turning the transparents into washes.
Mm-hmm.
But an airbrush is just a tool, right? I mean, if we want to talk about the reality of the situation, is you'll get people that say, oh, airbrushes are cheating, or, you know, airbrush artists aren't really artists, and all that nonsense. You know, it's just a tool. And if you're smart with your painting and what have you, you'll use the best tool for the situation. Just like anything you do, right? You don't hopefully go plunge the toilet with a hammer, right? You use the right tool. And the airbrush is just a great tool. There's times where you'll be like, you know, the airbrush is not fitting. You'll see me tons of times on the channel be like, yeah, we're not going to use the airbrush for this model. It doesn't make sense, right? The kind of effects that I'm looking for, the airbrush won't really do. I'm trying to add a lot of like harsh brush textures to leathers and things like that. And so there'll be a lot of cases where I just won't use an airbrush at all. And then some models are largely airbrush. Right. So we're able to get a lot of detailing done on this guy. I'm liking that a lot. Now I'm starting to think about what other colors, and I'm thinking greens, like a yellowish green would be really good here on these areas where we have all these boils, right? Rather than torn skin, I don't want to do that as an irritation, but more like, you know, like pustules growing up out of it. I think that would work. Aries Polly says, thank you for getting the orders out so quick. Jen.
Oh, yay.
Everybody loves Jen.
You're welcome. You guys have to just promise that you'll use them.
Yes. No slacking. We want to see pictures.
Get to painting.
We want to see pictures of projects
Yep.
done with the new paints. ASAP. No slacking. All right, yeah, so let's clean this out, and then let's go in with some, actually, I think I want to get some red around the eyelids on these eyes. So, it's a great, let's get him out of the way. Let's put this thing back, the protective cap over the needle so I don't destroy my needle while I'm trying to clean out the airbrush real quick. We'll get rid of this red, and we'll mix up some green and some yellow, I think, and get a real good snot color of a transparent going here. Yeah, that red dried a little harsher in my cup too, so I don't know if we have to play around with it, see if maybe the red has a tendency to get a little bit more aggressive with its dry times, or if we're just leaving it in there too long. I made a lot of paint, which I don't normally do, because in Arizona it gets so dry that you get a lot of paint drying in the cup, and that's kind of what's happened here. We ran it in there for so long, you get a little bit of that red drying on the cup there. T. Schmidt, thank you. Jen is the real hero around here. All I can claim is I've probably, hopefully, taught you somewhere along the way something that has helped your painting. Jen makes all your dreams actually come true. So, does putting a lid on the paint cup help at all? No. It dries regardless. The lid on the paint cup thing is the only benefit that it gives you is that it's harder to spill the paint. So it allows you to tilt the airbrush further over in one direction or another, right? So you don't spill paint out. Because all it has is an air hole there that you got to make sure it doesn't clog, or else you'll create a vacuum in the airbrush. But I don't even know where mine are, so I had to probably know where. I have all the boxes to all my airbrushes in a closet. So, but no, the lid doesn't keep it from drying or anything like that. All right, so let's mix up some green, transparent green, transparent yellow. Right? I'm gonna put those two together and make a gross green color. We don't need much of this, so I'm gonna do a drop of green. And a drop of yellow. Actually, I'm going to put 2 drops of yellow. The yellow saturation is much less than the green. The green is probably the most vibrant of our transparents as I've been using them. I'm going to use straight flow improver this time instead of a mix of water. See if that helps. And I'm still going at about 10 to 1, I would assume. I'm not very mathematical about it. You see, I just squeeze the bottle until it looks like there's enough in there. That's kind of how it works for me. And that's going to give us a much warmer green tone than comes right out of the bottle just by mixing the green and yellow. Like I said, mix them like normal paints. You know, play around with them. I think you'll be super surprised. That still looks like it's really, really vibrant. Like I said, the green is crazy. So I'm going to go ahead and add a bunch of water in here too. The amazing thing about these is you never have to be afraid of over thinning them. Literally. Paint and you'll still get a very usable paint. It'll take you a lot longer to get it to build up to super vibrancy level, but it'll still do amazing coverage. So I think you'll love the fact that these paints go a lot further than other paints that you're used to as well, meaning that, you know, you're going to get a lot more use out of them. All right, so let's go in and let's zoom in a little bit here. Let's start looking at these pustule areas. Nice and disgusting. Love paint and chaos stuff. Like, oh, look at that. That looks like puke. Perfect. That's the perfect shade of puke. I feel like we don't get that enough in our lives. Although my story with my sister yesterday, we talked about that yesterday. That's actually not true. There is such a thing as too much puke in your life. Not gonna lie. Again, just kind of feathering out a halo around these areas where we've got these bumpy, pustule-y looking things.
Hey, somebody likes us.
Tuxedo King.
What's going on? Are you actually the Tuxedo
I
King?
was like, what's the line of succession for that? Is there a Tuxedo Prince who's waiting to take over? Big Bad Booty Man said, got the new paints in. They're fantastic. Care to spill the beans about what colors will be in the next wave? That's right. I'm that guy.
Hey, we were talking about it
We were
earlier.
talking about it
Everybody
earlier.
else was yelling at us. I'm glad you're here. Everybody else was like, what? We haven't even gotten a chance to use the current new set, and you're already wanting us to buy more paints?
Is this dark camo green?
Russian green sample. You probably want to use the real dark camo green, though. You can grab that one. I mean, that's a good color. That's just not the same one that's out right now.
I want it to be the same because
we
I don't
changed
wanna
it. We
remem-
changed
like,
it
I don't
a
want to
little
have to
bit.
remember which one I used.
Yeah, we changed it a little bit from then we darkened it up. Again, we're not really painting the pustules themselves. I mean, we are. I'm aiming at the pustule and I'm getting the green around it. But we'll go back and paint the pustules, the little bumps, with the paintbrush. What we're doing here is just giving a coloration to the skin around these pustules so that when we go back in with the brush, we've already got this kind of bruised flesh area that kind of blends in and along with all of the irritated red skin that we've got going on. So especially in these areas where they kind of overlap, it gives us a good area, like up around the top of the head and the eyelids here. And we just don't want to completely overtake our purple in any of these areas, right? I'll use a little bit more aggressive with this green down in the shadows because I'm liking what I'm seeing. Again, as we just kind of are playing around, sometimes you'll start seeing a color develop that you really dig, right? And so that green, that kind of iridescence we get, shoving that green into the purple around on the bottom side works really well. So I'm going to go ahead and not be shy in the shadows with the green. Gives it a real, like, disgusting flesh color. Remember, we started all this, if you weren't here at the beginning of the show, we started all this with human skin tone, right? All of this model was painted base with regular flesh tones. Oh yeah, that green and that purple in the shadows just makes it look like a big walking bruise. Blending it down in these areas along the knees where I've got both torn flesh and these buboes and pustules and whatever the hell else they are. Just feathering some of that green up from the shadows. Look at that. Now I think we'll go back to a little bit of the purple to pull it all back together. Then some yellow. And I think we'll leave the flesh alone for now. I'm kind of thinking about a little bit of blue up underneath. So we may do that first. Let's do that first. We are kind of playing with color. We do have, I guess we don't really have an idea, right? A lot of times I just start off with, I just want gross, disgusting flesh. And so we've got that idea going. And now we just got to pull it together by layering all these colors. And again, using a base coat of our opaque flesh tones, and then coming back over it and filtering a bunch of the transparent colors, mixing them together like you just saw us do with the green and the yellow. And then just continuing to layer and layer and layer until we get what we want. Because the transparents themselves are so thin, it makes it super easy. I'm going to use some transparent blue next. To just continue to layer. And you never know what you're going to get, right? And the nice thing is, unlike mixing a bunch of opaque pigments together, the one thing we know we're not going to get is a mud color, right? It just doesn't do that. So put a bunch of flow improver in with our blue. Fang and Claw, how the hell are you? How's your week? Again, it's Friday. We're sliding headfirst into the weekend. Hope everybody had a wonderful week, or as wonderful as could be if you work all day, every day. You've survived yet another one of them. You're here at the weekend. Some of you overseas may already be knee-deep in Saturday. Hopefully you're enjoying it. All right, so now we've got this blue, and I want to just kind of feather this blue into this area where we've got all these colors coming together in the shadow, right? We've got green, we've got purple, we've got red. Now we're just going to shove a little bit of blue up in there with it so it gives it that really nice bruised feel. Pulls it all together. Pull it up. The sides a little bit into the green there on the side of the face. And back out a little bit, or get it to where it's actually staring at what I'm painting right here. I'm lining it. You know what I need to do? I've done my paints usually have been organized over the past few months. Then we release new paints, and of course now it's an absolute crap show around here with paints everywhere. So I keep having to force myself into parts of my desk I don't normally paint in. Right, so bring that blue up from underneath. Layer it a little bit into our green that we just did. Like so. Same around in all these shadowed areas. side of his gut. Like that. I'll put some right in the pinch of his eye over that green. Okay, just a little bit in the pinch of the eye there is nice. Again, we just get a bunch of really cool kind of iridescent effects as we do this, right? Without the sheen of those inks. So stuff like that's going to look really good. We're going to throw a little bit of purple over all of this to pull it all back together with the base. But these colors are going to give us a really good underlayer for everything here. Wow, that blue meeting up with the red right along those arm pivot joints works really well. See how much different the blue looks right there, where it mixes in with the red and the purple transparent right there, versus what it does over just that bright green and yellow. Same paint, right? But it gives you two totally different looks. That's why I say I think you guys and gals are going to have a ton of fun using this stuff. And just getting to play like we're doing here, and just never know what you're going to come up with. Again, more aggressive there at the butt, coming up in and out of the shadows up into the back area, and just make sure we get a little bit of this blue cutting in between that purple and that red in the shadows, because I think that looks really, really good. And just layering into my shadows, base of the tail. Under these arms again. Right here where the skin kind of fades into the claw. It's a good area to throw some on there probably. Right along in here. Really like the way the blue over that green gives us that kind of seafoam color so nicely. Works really well. So we've used the purple. We started with the purple over the base flesh tones. Then we've gone in and went over the purple with the reds to get all the irritated marks. All right, then we did that green-yellow combo. It looks like some sort of peppermint candy right now. Right, and then the blue over the top of that. And now, last but not least, we'll take it in and finish up with the purple where we started and bring everything back together. Right, so we've layered a bunch of these colors on there. We started with the purple, layered things on top of it, and now we'll bring the purple back because that's our real, if there is a real skin color here that we wanted, was kind of a purple look. So we'll go back to just raw purple, and then we'll be done. Then it's brushwork. Finished up with all the greens. I don't have Discord open right now. I normally don't do that on Fridays, but remind me, and I will once I get through all this, because we're got about 30 minutes left. So let me finish up with this purple coat, and then we'll take one final look at this thing, and then I'll go look at some Discord. So remind me, because I'm old and I forget things. Purple, purple, purple. All right, purple. You're excited? All Pro Crow? Nice. I like to hear it. I've had so many emails and so many conversations with people on Facebook and other outlets where they're just like, you know, you came out with this color and it's totally taken the place of so-and-so color from so-and-so manufacturer, right? It just is spot on what I need, and it's so much a better paint, you know, that they just put the others and mothball them, I call it, and only use ours. And that means the world, right? There's no better compliment than, hey, I use your black instead of every other black I've ever used.
I saw somebody on the creature community that said that they're going to throw away all their other, or give away their other paint, or
give away every other
something.
paint.
Yeah.
We could do the same thing. Jen and I never touch any other brand of paint anymore.
I couldn't even tell you the last time.
It's not just a marketing thing, right? It's not just, oh, you know, we need to make sure we're only showing people our paint. I mean, for years on here, we've painted with Vallejo and Army Painter and everything else under the sun, right? But now we're at the point where everything that we do is easy to create because our paints mix so easily. Don't need to ever pick up another color. We just go in and say, okay, I need a more reddish brown. So we mix red with brown. We get a better color usually than what we can find right out of the bottle. That being said, the new paints help a lot. We've got a lot more colors now. The next 8 that are coming out towards the end of the year, we can say that, right? Everybody get mad? Wait, stop releasing paints. All right, so now it's purple again. Really, really thin purple. And we're just going to go in and tie all this stuff together, right? So we go in and we just start putting that purple right over the top of everything again, right? And again, because they're transparent, by their very nature, all of these base coats will start showing through. Right? And then now instead of little islands of color, right, everything starts to pull back in to a main body that quick, right? Instead of there being little, green spots, now it all just looks like it's part of the same sickly skin. But we don't lose any of that color, right? We're not losing any of the irritated red. Even though I layer it right back over the side there, all of the irritated cuts still show through.
Darth Mullen said the coal black sat on my wet palette all night and got thin. I went to paint my base and it's still self-leveled and covered.
Yep.
Doc Given said, I just learned about your paints and asked to be notified when the whole set will be stocked. Do you know when that will be?
The original set, right, the base set, should be back in stock in the next couple of weeks. We don't have an exact ETA on when we're going to have all the original colors reboxed.
Are we out
We're
of
only
it
missing
here?
a couple,
We're
right?
out of it here?
What's that?
Are we out of it here?
We're out here, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we're out of full sets here, I believe. Depends on what country you're in. We may have one or two left here, but Canada's out, UK's out, Europe's out, everybody else is out. We may have one or two in the US. If you're looking, then no. They may have sold since we started the show.
Okay.
But you can, right now, you can get all of the colors except for, I think, what's not available. What are we sold out of right now? Silver? No? I can't remember what's sold out. There's a couple of colors that we just don't have, but we have all the rest of them. So
I don't feel like
you can almost build a set
it's a little bit more work.
out of singles.
A little more labor intensive, but
Yeah, notice how I throw that purple over the nose area. I still get that blue and that green, but now instead of looking like some weird mask, it's just colors popping out of the purple. Same with everything else here.
Don Patrick, there's no word.
There's what?
He said, what's the word on go bags and foam inserts? And I said, there's no word.
Yeah, no.
I think they're on the way, right?
Yeah, they're on the way.
They're on the way. That's all we can really say. Hashtag soon is becoming our motto.
Yeah, exactly. Tag soon. Just say any day now.
Any day now. Any second.
Which is true. It will be any day now.
Oh, well, we will be sure to thank Jack of Clubs Painting.
Will be what?
Doc Given said Jack of Clubs Painting just recommended your paints.
Absolutely awesome.
Said we will be sure to thank him for that.
Jack is a part of the creature creator community, and he is an amazing painter. Make sure you follow Wyatt if you haven't. I don't know if he's in here today.
I think he might have been one of the first orders of the new paints.
He's on it,
Like,
man.
he
He
was
does not
on it.
waste time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Wyatt does not waste time. All right, and there we go. All right, so we've got this amazing buildup
That's so cool.
of colors that gives us, we've been talking a lot about the iridescent and, ways to get, funky coloring and stuff like that going on. And this is all just quick airbrushing.
Does he have two mouths?
He has three.
Oh. Oh, yeah.
Uno,
there it
dos,
is.
tres.
There it is. Oh, that's disgusting.
He's got two faces. That one's got two eyes, and then this one shares one of those eyes. He's got two noses.
And there's just a mouth with no anything.
And then there's a
except
mouth
the
that's just kind of blind with a rat
This
tail
is
coming
disgusting.
out of it. That's a Skaven tail coming out of it.
That is really gross.
All right, so now we've got this blotchiness that when we go in and we start doing our painting and we pick out all of the individual boils and pustules, we've got a really, really solid foundation where everything blends really, really nicely, right? We've got these little spots of bruised, greasy greens and all of the irritated reds. The purples and the blues fit in there really nice, right? And I think that gives us kind of a really nice, chaotic flesh color for this beast. That shows you the powers of the transparency. And also you can see the sheen, right? It's very, very flat. It hasn't added a lot of gloss. Nothing. So barely any sheen to the model surface at all by using those transparents, as opposed to using inks and such that generally will give you, real crazy glossiness or satin finishes. This just layered right over our matte finish of our skin tones really nicely. I'm digging that. That's going to be a really cool foundation for doing the rest of this guy. Irritated red, like their old the old school paint colors. All right. So hopefully, if you were on the fence, didn't understand how the transparents could be used. A lot of people ask about through the airbrush and stuff. I'll be doing a video outside of the stream on all of these kind of techniques. I'll be doing a very similar technique for skin using different colors for our King of Ruin model that I just got finished doing. Was that sitting over on your desk?
No, it's over there.
Oh, yeah. This guy, if you've been watching the stream the last couple of shows, we've been going through and prepping our King of Ruin. We did some custom worms crawling in and out of his skin instead of his normal antlers and all the green stuff and sculpting that goes along with that. So he's got a little custom twitch to him, and we're going to be painting him up in a studio video showing how to use the transparents both with the brush and the airbrush. But this is a really good study that we've done here tonight on turning normal skin tones into these crazy chaotic purple with all of these other colors underneath the skin. That gives us a great base coat to start from for doing all the rest of the work on this guy, for sure. For sure. Yeah, Discord. That's right. Discord. Let's switch this one over. We can see what Jen's doing.
Oh, you can look at Discord first, and then I'll show when I'm done.
All right, let me load up Discord real quick. Drink some water. Feel like I'm not drinking enough water.
I'm definitely not. It's harder to drink water here than at home.
It's gonna be interesting. I don't know what to do with there's all these like spirit things in the Hell Cannon arm, right? So it's gonna be interesting to find a color that we can do there, like a glowy color that now that we've done all this crazy purple works there, that gives it that kind of glowing spirit infused cannon. Jen's killing it with her green.
Oh, it's not as bright as it would be.
Her whole model's
the
looking great.
lighting on here is
That-
just so weird.
That
to me.
non-metallic jade armor is fantastic. So Discord is taking about a year.
I didn't know it took that long. So
If I don't
Okay.
load Discord before we start the stream, it sometimes doesn't ever load. So there you go.
well, I was trying to go in and brighten up the skin, but it doesn't look like I've done that yet.
Gotta flesh. Is that a new green? What greens are you using, babe?
Yes, I'm using this.
Using bright yellow
But
green?
I mixed it with just our regular green. Yeah. And then in the folds and stuff, it's this and the dark camo.
Dark camel green in the shadows,
Yeah.
and then just green and bright yellow green.
Yep.
We make sure all our colors like each other, so that they work really well.
What color do you think I should put on the
Inside of those?
inside stuff and like back here?
I don't know.
Purple.
Could do purple. One of them. They kind of look purplish right now with that dark
And the
base
dark.
that you did.
The dark. Would it make sense to put
Alright.
purple in these like in the creases of his?
You definitely could, and that would bring it together with the purple in the
Yeah,
claws too.
that's
If you
what I figured.
glazed a little
As
bit
I
of
was
purple, just be
putting-
real careful glazing the shadows.
Yeah. As
Yeah.
I was putting the dark green back in, I'm like, that's kind of boring.
Yeah, that would work.
So okay.
And again, you notice how even when you do a really good job with blending, if you're all in one hue, it
Yeah.
starts to flatten. It gets a
Yeah.
little boring.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter how great it looks. If you're doing skin tones and it's dark green, mid green, light green, no matter how great you are at blending, there's always going to be something there that makes you think something's off.
Yeah.
And it's because there's only one color. And no time in your life have you looked at skin and seen it only be one color, except when it's painted models and they only use dark color, mid color, bright color of the same hue.
And then I did I put a little bit on here, but it looks like it needs more, maybe. And I don't know
On
if
the
I have
tail?
it in the right spot.
On the tail? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think just go a little bit brighter.
Yeah.
You know?
But is it the right spot?
Yeah,
do you
I
think?
feel like it is. Yeah, sure.
It helps when I hold it under the light and
Right,
because
because you can see the shine on the model.
Yeah.
You got it. You're getting it. That's the way to do it. No, I think it looks great.
Thanks.
The shoulders are just spectacular.
Everything kind of fell off after that.
It looks like metallic paint. Right? I mean, it looks like fingernail polish almost. It's so bright, which is awesome. All right, let me go over here, and like I said, let me go over here, community gallery. It looks like it's finally trying to load up, question mark.
Doc Evans, the original set is, it's 29, our 29 colors that we came out with back in December. And then we have our 2 new expansion sets. So we're not doing anything to the original set. Like it's the same, it's gonna be the same color.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that's what you're asking about an updated complete set. I'm not sure.
All right, let's take a look. Let's see what you got. Bam. Grins. Grins. Oh, hell yeah. Look at that thing. What is that thing?
Look at that.
I like that thing. Oh, what is this thing? What are these things? These things are awesome. And this unfortunate dude is
He's trying to fight them all off.
trying to fight them off. I feel like this is a losing proposition.
Yeah.
There's more teeth in these plants.
He's having a rough day.
Yeah, these look like the things from like Stranger Things, right? Like
Yeah,
the little, like
they
the
do.
dogs, the scary
Yep.
dog things that
The
run around.
dogs.
I dig these. I dig these greens, man. I really like it. I like on this guy. I like the kind of flesh tone that it looks like he brought in.
Jungle demons, he said.
Jungle demons. I like it.
Yeah.
He gonna die. I feel like
He
that's an
gonna die.
understatement. That's an understatement. No, I like this whole thing. This is great. Those greens look spectacular.
Yeah, the greens are
Great job. Great job.
Luck. All pro krill all day. So green, golden yellow, ivory.
What's that?
He said all pro krill all day. I'm just asking about the colors. I said green, golden yellow, and ivory.
Could be. Yep.
Maybe. I see red. But for the greens. Or just green and ivory?
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
really
the green.
good. Okay.
Great job. Burnt red, dark camo green, or yeah,
the
green
yellow-
and yellow green.
So you just did these?
Oh,
Because you
so-
just got the yellow green.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So you literally just
Just
got the
like
paints and painted these.
yesterday or today?
You're committed.
That's awesome.
That's incredible.
Yeah, because dark camo is new too. Oh.
Yep.
So that's not even like I painted the base and I waited to highlight with the bright yellow, but
No, his
like,
dark
the
camo green's like,
camo's
yep, finished today.
awesome.
He's faster than I am.
Nice.
These look great, man. I love the models too.
They're really fun.
This is for an upcoming Kickstarter, I think.
Oh, is it?
Not available to the human race yet, but looking really, really good.
Oh, you were making dark camo. What about yellow green? Did you use that for the new one, or did you make?
Oh,
that?
he made them.
and
Yeah,
the
he made
yellow.
them. Okay, good. Yeah, I
okay,
was gonna
okay.
say. Yeah. So your life just got a lot easier
Yeah.
with all the new colors. Good stuff. Great work. Okie dokie. Right. Yeah, right. I was like, yeah, so, when we got the original colors and we're playing with them and we already decided that we were going to, initially it was supposed to be 30 colors, right? It was supposed to also have the dark silver, was supposed to be in the original set. It did not make it, so the quote-unquote blackish metallic, right? The darkest silver metallic that we have, the dark silver. It didn't make it into the original one, so it was 29 colors. But even from day one, when we knew that we had all the colors set, it was like we already knew where we needed to go with some of them. We needed the dark blue, the dark purple, and all of that. It was just that it was impossible for us, without delaying release of paint, to get everything that we wanted to release at once. And so it's been really good. But what that also leads into, like we were saying earlier, why we decided to release 24 colors at this first batch of expansion. And from here on out, our expansions will shorten down to 8 paints is our goal, right? So by the end of the year, hopefully like Black Friday-ish this year, we'll have 8 new colors. And then we'll probably do a couple sets next year of 8 colors. And then I don't remember where that gets us. But, our goal is to, be in the kind of 80, 90 range of colors. We've got a good plan, a roadmap laid out for getting there before too long. So we'll keep giving you more colors that you can use to replace all the old stuff that you've been using. And you can donate all your old paints to the Hobby Goodwill.
Find a like a high school and see if they have a gaming club or a hobby club or something like that.
Yeah,
if you're gonna
exactly
donate.
right. Exactly right. Oh, I gotta clean my airbrush. Derp. Derp. I'm sitting here
next
listening to
week
Jen clean her brushes,
is-
and I'm like, I don't have any brushes to clean. Oh,
Is next
wait.
week Black Friday already?
No, that's not how that works. Not how the calendar works, my friends.
For those of you who are not in the U.S. and don't know exactly what Black Friday is, it's the end of November.
Or the end of the world, depending on how you look at shopping with millions of
Well,
other people.
yeah.
I consider it to be the end of the world every year, but I stay
couldn't
in the
even
house.
tell you the last time that I went to a store on Black Friday.
I can. I was in Colorado,
decade,
and my
probably.
sister wanted to go shopping for Black Friday, right? Is when I was living there, I think.
Sense.
And she just had it in her head. She goes out every Black Friday and does, crazy shopping deals. She has it all lined out, has a plan on where to go when. We're going at midnight, or now they open at 11, so we're going at 11.
Some of them are opening at like 6 o'clock on Thanksgiving.
So there's been plenty of times where I've gone and babysitted my nephew while she and her husband, my brother-in-law go out and do their Black Friday shopping. And there was once where she drug me out because she's like, oh, Michael's has got a big one and you'll love all the art supplies. And so I went and it was all like, like old lady hobby stuff that was on super sale. Nothing I needed was on super sale. And I walked out of there with like jack all nothing. I was like, meh. I think I bought like an easel that I still have in storage in a box.
Never opened.
Never opened. Right? Because I just don't paint. Even when I paint canvas, I never use an easel.
Oh, really?
No, I just always lay it down flat on
Yeah.
well, I used to have an architect drafting desk. And so I could just tilt the drafting desk to a steeper angle. And it was much larger surface for me to work on. So I really enjoyed that much more. Brush is clean. Good. Bye.
And I have done everything on this model with this. Oh, and you know what? I think I started with the number 6. So I did all the base coats with the 6, and then everything else has been with this 4. Holding up pretty good.
Good.
I think, because I clean it after I'm done every
'Cause
time.
you take care of it. Made a tongue for the worm. I'm pretty sure it will break, but I made a tongue for the worm.
What'd you make it out of?
Just the epoxy putty. So we'll see. I'm going to put it on there. It may completely crap the bed before I'm done with the model, at which point I'll have to get rid of it, but I'm going to try to keep it on there. And glue it into that little sphincter opening and those 2 teeth. My precise measuring tool here. My fingers.
Oh, I need to take another picture of my beholder. I forgot to do that.
So we'll see if my little epoxy tongue lasts. Can't have a sentient flesh worm without a crazy tongue. So I just used my green stuff roller and I rolled out a tongue. We'll see if it will last. I glued it in 2 places, so hopefully it's strong enough. That'll probably bust. Yeah, I don't know. I would. This is one of those where I would, on the over/under, I would vote that it breaks, personally. But we'll see if we can. Maybe that'll be the big test, is to see if the tongue survives the modeling and painting part of the thing. We'll see. It's just another way that makes it a little different than what it is down here, because we use this same piece up here, but with a tongue coming out of it. Go team, our team.
7th Forge. Have a good weekend.
Take it easy. Uther Brexton. You were looking to pick up a new set of brushes and was wondering what your opinion was on sables versus synthetic and when, where to use either. That's a great question, and we talk about it a lot. In my description, I'll start with saying that any brush that is a round what we call a watercolor brush. It's a round with a taper, right? So all the brushes that we use are watercolor style brushes, right? So you got a round tapered brush. Any brush that's the right size can do the job you're trying to do, given you understand your method of painting or your style of painting, I guess, not necessarily method. Do you have a heavy brush stroke, or do you have a light brush stroke? Are you delicate with your brush, or are you, really assertive when you're putting paint down, right? So for me, the way I tell people the difference is if you find yourself painting and you see that your brush bends over at anywhere from like a 45 to a 90 degree angle as you're painting with each individual stroke, you've got a pretty heavy hand, okay? And so a heavier hand is gonna want sables, sables. For what we do, you're gonna want sables, right? Because a sable is a softer brush. It has more flexibility to it, right? The hairs will flex more before splitting the point. So notice here, I've got a nice point rolled on this brush, and I can press it almost over to 90 degrees, and it still holds a fairly good point. It starts to splay a little bit. It gets a little wide and spoons a little bit, but it still can hold a point. So if I'm doing detail, or if I'm trying to draw, paint a base coat line around a piece of armor, right? I'm just trying to do a semicircle around a Space Marine shoulder pad. I can still put a lot of pressure and make sure that paint goes where I want it, right? If I get a stiffer brush, a la, a larger synthetic, or a synthetic of the same size, right? And I get it to a nice point, right? As I push down on it, it's gonna spoon a lot sooner, right? So it's gonna lose its point because it's a stiffer bristle. And so as you bend it in general, the bristles are gonna wanna spread as they bend over, okay? Spread as they bend over. I feel like the innuendos.
Dirty.
The innuendos are ripe today. So I have a very delicate hand when I paint. Maybe not very delicate, but I paint with a delicacy. So I can use a synthetic, one of our artillery brushes, for a whole model, and I have. Like I've painted the entire Drakon. We painted with the number 6 and the number 2 artillery brush, right? So this whole model, outside of the little bit of airbrush base coating that we did, all of the brush blending and everything that we did on it for the box art model was all done with the synthetic brushes. I didn't use any sables on purpose on this model so that I could show people that you can accomplish the same tasks. You just have to know your own limitations and how you paint so that you can get out of the brush what you need, and that it doesn't fight you at every turn, right? And that's the biggest difference. Some people will say that like a sable will hold more paint. That's not true anymore. Most synthetics, the body of the synthetic and the way that they oil the filament will draw as much paint capillary action wise as a good sable. The synthetics don't always release really thin paint. So if you paint like watercolor thinness, if you're glazing a lot, synthetics sometimes don't work as well for that because they don't measure the paint coming off the brush as well as a sable does. A sable will give you consistent flow off of the brush. A synthetic sometimes, because it's not natural hair, it doesn't have those oils as an inherent part of them. Sometimes if you press hard with a synthetic brush, along the length of a line, you'll just get more paint come off for what seems like no reason. You don't feel like you changed your brush pressure, but sometimes it feels like it's just releasing a little bit more paint. So if you paint very thin, again, sables tend to be better for you. But I would say that those are really the only distinguishing qualities. Some people, obviously synthetics will get tip bend to them quicker because they're plastics. So they get a memory of the direction you paint with them. So I always tell people when you're painting with a synthetic, do a couple of brush strokes along an area, then rotate 90 degrees and do the brush strokes again, and then 90 degrees, and just get used to rotating your synthetic brush all the time as you're painting, so that you don't, because even though you're not thinking about it, sometimes I've watched people pick up a brush and rotate it in their hand until they see the lettering, right? And then just always paint that direction. And so they'll find themselves kind of subconsciously putting a hook in their brush because they're always rotating the brush around. And when you ask them, why do you rotate the brush so that the letters are facing up all the time? And they don't even know they're doing it sometimes. It's just become something that it's a visual set that the brush is held right, maybe, whatever it is. But you may, and for some people, when they start to get the brush to curl, they'll rotate to the curl because that gives the paint, it feels like it's supposed to be that way. And then you just accentuate the curvature of the brush. So, there's maintenance things involved with synthetics.
What I always try and do is, and this is what I told a lot of people at Adepticon when we were talking about brushes, is that every time I go to my palette, that's when I rotate the brush.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm like taking it away from the model, and that's a good time for me to try and remember to rotate it, dip it in paint, and then I come back and so that I'm constantly moving it the whole time I'm painting.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that if you feel like again, like I said, it really comes down to that. Some people love and swear by sables, and I love them. They work great. Our igniters are fantastic brushes, but then you'll get people that really love our artillery brushes even more. And
I don't have a single sable on my brush holder right now.
And lately, that's become me. I use our artillery brushes for 90% of what I paint these days. And it's just been a thing that I didn't really think about. Maybe I did, because when we painted the Drakon, like I said, on purpose, I used just the synthetic brushes as a way to show and teach people that there shouldn't be a stigma of synthetic out there. It shouldn't be like sables rule and synthetics drool kind of a thing. Synthetics can do amazing work. There's amazing painters out there that look at James Wapple. He does amazing painting. He uses 30-cent brushes from Walmart.
Like gigantic ones too,
gigantic
right?
number 8s that he and Sam Lenz are very similar in the way they paint with their brush choice. And so he uses super cheap brushes, and you can't tell him any different. He's an accomplished painter that's been doing this for eons and has a feel, and he knows what this brush will do, and when he's done, he throws it in the garbage and grabs another one out of the 10-pack. So, it's a learned response to the tools you're comfortable with that I think winds up being the best thing for you. So for starter packs, I generally tell people a mix of brushes is a good way to learn. Get yourself a number 3 of our igniters. Get yourself a number 4 of the artillery brush, or a number 6 of the artillery. So you've got a 6, a 3, and then a det cord, and see which one has a feel that you like better. Because once a brush feels right as it's laying down paint, you'll go back to that brush more and more and more, and your confidence will build and build and build. And then who cares if it's the best brush in the world? It's the best brush for you.
Yeah.
And that's the key.
I love our det cords. I've been using.
I think you use det cord more than anything.
I do. I've used the artillery on this, but normally it's det cords. I think I did I definitely did her with det cords. Pretty much all. I couldn't tell you the last time I used an igniter.
I love them. I've been painting with a test brush. We get a bunch of test brushes that we're trying to figure out if we design a particular mix or blend of filament, and then I'll test them. And I really like the latest one that I've been doing, which is a sable and synthetic blend. It seems to be holding up fairly well, although lately I keep getting a couple of stray hairs. It might be because I'm not cleaning it very well, but it seems like some of the hair breaks a little quicker than I'm used to. So we'll see. Always something new going on around here.
Yep.
Go team, our team. I think that's it. That wraps it up for us for a Friday night. I hope you've enjoyed watching Jen and I do the paint dry thing. We have shown off some really great use of the transparent paints over a flesh tone base. Believe it or not, this was Caucasian skin tone when we started out with this Chaos Beast. And then we've layered a lot of purples, reds, blues, greens over the top of it to get this really cool kind of iridescent demon skin going. So I'm really stoked with that. Going to have to go back and rewatch this. Awesome, Drac. Got a flesh, thanks. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, you did, Uther. We normally are closing down shop right about now. The only thing outside the Creature Caster lineup for your brushes is your number 1 Raphael 8404. Yep, Raphael makes some really good sables. Great infomercial. We're the best 3-hour paint drying infomercial on Twitch. All right, gang, thank you so much for hanging out with us before you start off on your weekend. Be safe. Don't do anything we wouldn't do, and we'll hope to catch you on the flip side. Have a fun weekend. We love your faces and enjoyed hanging out with you on this Friday night. We'll check you later. Adios.